Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 2. My name is Jason, the creator of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2, and today I'm going to be working and trying to finish up my update for 1.1, and I'm also going to be talking a little bit about my new process for the custom content that I'm creating, and then also kind of some of the barriers that I've been running up against, some things that are less easy to manipulate and deal with inside the system currently, and some of the considerations I'm having to make with this update. But until some of those systems are a little bit easier to work with, it's pretty much what I've got. And so I'll be explaining that as I go. I'm also going to be broadcasting this out to the Discord server, so if you are a member on the Discord server, go ahead and jump on and we can continue our conversation there as well. And I'm going to go ahead and start that stream on there as well. I've started doing events on there so that you guys can kind of see when we have planned events where I'll be either working on development or doing co-op sessions, that kind of thing. And so trying to start the community there a little bit more. So let me go ahead and get this screen shared out on the Discord channel. And I see Aftermins has already joined. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
And so what I'm going to do is basically for the recording that's going online, basically I've noticed that there is a bit of an audio overlap. So what I've been trying to set up is basically just kind of a push to talk system. If people want to ask questions, all I ask is that, you guys have push to talk set up. So that way if you do, want to ask a question, it's not having the audio doubling and overlap and that kind of thing. But I am continuing to try to figure out a solution for the audio overlap for those of you that are viewing this as a recording. So I think that's pretty much everything is set up here. So let's go ahead and dive in. There's been kind of a, so since the 1.40C update, that actually landed at a very bad time for me personally as far as trying to get everything done. I did manage to get the update out, but I do apologize for everybody that enjoys watching the channel and enjoys watching the content created. I was super busy during that time, and it ended up taking, I think all in all, it was like 15 hours worth of updates to get most of those things ironed out, and there's still little hot fixes that I'm releasing with this latest update. And so when it comes to that many hours, it's kind of trying to mix that with work and also trying to get that update out as soon as possible. It's easier to not be on the stream because if people ask questions and that kind of thing, it can slow that down. So I do apologize for anybody that missed my sessions or has been curious about development. Development has been ongoing. I've just been trying to kind of duck down, put in as many hours as I can, and then get back to everything else that's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of summarize what I've been doing and why I've been doing it this way kind of thing, so that you guys are aware of kind of what the status is. So currently, a couple of things were discovered over the last couple of weeks. First is how to create custom content, and by custom content I mean creating new armor sets, new weapons, that kind of thing inside the system. To be honest, this was never actually not possible to do. What happened was in the earlier editions, I think they had their versioning rules a little bit tighter when they first released the game, to where it was doing very, very intense checks and balances of everything that was added to the inventory system. And if you added an additional object and it wasn't listed, so to bring that up. So again, for those of you that are joining me, in the top left is the actual extracted files, and the bottom left is my current mod, and then to the far right is the actual folder for the Dying Light game. So if we go over here to the extracted data and we go over to scripts, inventory, and then we go into versioning, they actually have these version files that are, I think, exported by the engine. And what these do is that if you see on the very first one, they had a 0, which is basically null, it doesn't have anything. And then if we go into the first one, pretty much every major game object in the entire game is listed in here. If it can be used in an inventory or in a quest, if you're ever trying to figure out, if you want to kind of search through what's available in the game, this pretty much has every single thing from the base game. If you are interested in things that have come in through the DLCs, Then as they're releasing the updates, that's where version 2 comes in, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they've actually released 7 updates since the original base game, and every time they go in here and modify something, they have to add these additional items. So anytime you're trying to find some of the things that they might be adding, a lot of this is stuff that they haven't actually added to the game yet, in the sense that it's not actually released yet. So spoiler alerts or Easter egg alerts, there are things hidden inside these files that are not actually in the game yet. So that's actually what originally spurred my initial, like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna make an entire loot system, I'm gonna make custom armor, all these things. And then when I was first trying to do this a while back, I hit a wall where it basically, the engine would flag a inventory file that was not official, or was what's the word, it was like a versioning error, and it would basically cause a crash whenever you try. It would mess up the whole inventory and all these issues. So because of that, I originally had to kind of give up on the custom content. But as of the latest version, I was trying again the other day for the custom content for Dying Light 1, and while I was trying to get Dying Light 1 into the game, I actually uncovered how to get Dying Light 2 custom content done as well. So that all happened over the last couple of weeks. So I'll be kind of sharing what that process is, how easy it is to make these new item sets. It's actually incredibly easy now, and I've already made, so starting from earlier this week into now, I think I'm at about 35 new armor items that I'm creating. Now I haven't balanced them yet. I haven't given them new special characteristics or anything like that, just the visuals. So I have about 35 new armor sets that you can equip on your player, that does network, that does sync, and with that, I haven't started until today. I'm hoping to get to it today, is the actual, like, how it will be injected into the game and what it will do to change the game, and hopefully I have a very exciting premise of what I think the new armor system could do, and I want your guys' feedback, so I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' input. I won't be diving into that just yet, but instead I'll focus back on what I was just talking about. So, two things. You have the Dying Light 1 content, which requires modification of core files. I'm a little nervous about this because with this latest update, so many players started losing their inventories, they started losing their collectibles, that kind of thing. And so I don't know what all they're doing on the Techland side to change mod support for future games and that kind of thing, but I'm a little nervous to go and ask players to start modifying their core file structure, because basically, if I already got enough bug reports, as soon as I start telling people how to modify their game and they have to do all these very specific steps, it's only a matter of time before, people corrupt their game or possibly get banned, or there's probably all sorts of things that could happen from doing that. So I'll be creating a tutorial on how I got Dying Light 1 into Dying Light 2. I won't be doing that today, but I'll be focusing on that because I have a lot more research to do with it. What happened was I was in the middle of that research when they dropped 1.4, which changed everything, and all the things started getting screwy. People started losing inventories, all that good stuff. Made me immediately pump the brakes and go like, okay, hang on, because there's probably the easiest way to get people to stop playing this game is probably to lose their progress in the game. Like, nobody wants to start this game over from scratch. So, it's just one of those things where I want to avoid that for the mod. Did you have a comment there, Aftermans? Okay. So with that, there is the modifying the files for the actual Dying Light 2 content. So also shout out, thanks Froggy on YouTube. Yep, I'm back. I'm streaming. We're doing this. So thanks for tuning back in. So for modifying the core files on Dying Light 2. So I found out a lot of things that have to do with the versioning and trying to get this content in. Originally, I was trying to work with their system, And actually it got to the point where I just realized like, oh, I actually don't have to use their system at all. I can actually inject this without without their system. So to explain that, one of the reasons I started running into issues was they have again these versioning files. So what I was originally doing was going to these versioning files and then going down here and essentially trying to add a new item, add, increase by 1, increase the item count, that kind of thing. And then over here on the actual inventory stuff, so you have two different types of files here, and this is true of weapons and armor. So the first file is how it goes into the inventory system, how it goes into all the different systems that allow you to drop it, that allows you to have like special abilities tied to those things. And then you have the actual visualization of those objects. So you have the actual file that says this is what they look like, this is where you can attach different things to them, that kind of thing. So in the actual file that goes in there and says the inventory, you have this thing called game version. And this is what threw me off immediately because I'm sitting there like, oh crap, this has to correlate to a game version. So if it goes in here and says this is game version 1, then what that's actually referring to is version 1, is this dump file of where they have every file in the game. So therefore, it's this like, oh crap. So they're accounting for this because they did this with the, when I was trying to do the custom zombies, sorry, brain fart there. When I was trying to do the custom infected and custom zombies, I ran into the same problem where it's already been pre-generated. So because of that, it's like, crap, how do I make the engine notice this? How do I get this, actually injected into the game? And so I was trying to play by their rules before and try to get these things added to the actual game itself, and that was going nowhere. I was getting the same errors. Everything was going like, no, these are improper, versions. This is not correct. And so what I learned is that you basically just delete this line. And this is true of everywhere that you ever see DLC content or anything. You can actually just clear that information and it works. And so that was what I was originally nervous about, is like, oh crap, everything has to be released as a DLC. Everything has to be released as a very specific type of file. But luckily the engine allows you to basically say like, I don't care about the version, just inject this actual content. So what this led to was starting with the inventory first, because the weapon systems are actually way more complex in the sense that they need to be balanced, they need to have all these special things. Most of the weapons are already accounted for, so that there's not really a lot of weapons in the game that they didn't use. Most of them are actually available to the player. And so because of that, I first wanted to look at the armor system. And with the armor system, I didn't want to just do this thing where, okay, now you have tons of new armor. No, I want to make it more fun than that. So the new concept for the armor system for the game is that everybody has been talking. The most common thing that I've been hearing for this game is that nobody understands why dark zones, why go into these things, why go explore a lot of the areas that are more difficult, because they already get it. They already get most of that loot. And I completely agree with that. I've changed the loot system inside the vanilla game quite a bit to where essentially the concept is that if there's a kitchen, you should only get things that belong in a kitchen. You probably shouldn't get random things that you'd find in a gas station or those kind of things from a kitchen. I mean, maybe, but there's certain ways that loot can be handled that make them a little bit more realistic or more interesting. So the concept here is that I've created, by the end of this, I should have about 100 new armor sets. And kind of the pitch here, or the idea, is that I'm hoping that if we change the armor system to where you start out with very crappy armor, very basic armor, similar to a lot of the armor that you already see in the game, with the survivors and the different groups, they kind of have the grungy, trash bags wrapped around them kind of armor. And then as you progress, you start to see better and better armor sets. Well, the idea is that what I'm trying to build towards is that you start off with very basic gear, and everything in the sunlight is the easy stuff. It's the easy to get to stuff. You can get that armor. You can find better sets of that armor. You can find things like hazmat suits that allow you to go into different infested areas, that kind of thing. And the deeper you go, the more hard and difficult areas you go into, that's where your better armor is now going to lie. So all your nice armor sets, all your legendary armor sets, that kind of thing will start to be catered more towards difficulty rather than, you know, and this is all going to be set up to an optional. So because of that, some people just want certain difficulty challenges with the mod, and I get that. While this is meant to be an overhaul, so what I'm trying to do is build towards this idea of optional features that you can add on to the mod. But this will allow you to have that concept of, okay, now the game is more difficult because I actually have bad armor. In order to get better armor, I need to go fight with bandits, or I need to go into dark zones and that kind of thing to find, better armor. And some of that I'm trying to set up to actual storytelling elements, to where as you complete quests and that kind of thing, they will actually give you armor that could allow you to do better inside of dark zones and that kind of thing. And so that way it allows you to expand further into the world as you play the game. The early on quests will allow you to get basic armor, and then as you actually play the game, you'll start to get that armor that'll allow you to go and hold out stronger and go further into the game and in the different dark zones. So that's kind of the prompt, or that's kind of the initial thought and the hope. But I'll also be listening to your guys' feedback. So I want to know, what your guys' thoughts are about that type of system. And I've got Aftermans on the actual Discord channel right now. So I guess I'll probe him first. Is what's your thoughts there, Aftermans?
Are you making a whole new game? Or what is this, dude?
I'm trying.
You're making Vanilla Dying Light 2 seem like a nerf of I Am Legion Reborn.
Well, there's not a lot of people that are saying a lot of positive things about the vanilla game. So, we got to try something more fun.
Fair enough.
So what I've started with is underneath the armor section, there's a new I Am Legion section. And what I'm doing is I'm actually going through and I'm making armor based on its visual appearance, but then also the perks that it'll hold. So I'm making different armor sets as well. So the idea is that you have things like melee sets, you have things like a leisure set. So the leisure set will allow you to hopefully increase your selling abilities and that kind of thing. So if you find the leisure set, then you can actually go and sell your items with the leisure set and have better perks based towards selling, you clean yourself up kind of thing. I've gone overkill with the PK. We have all sorts of new PK armor. And I'll just go ahead and launch the game so that you guys can kind of see how I'm setting this up and what I'm doing with it. So let me just confirm that I've got the latest version on the Discord server. Thanks for joining, Hypnotic. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
So if we go ahead and jump in here. And for testing, what I've done is it's one of the original things I was trying to steer away from was this idea of like, how do I inject this stuff into the level loot and then also be able to test properly and figure out, its balance and that kind of thing. The solution that I found for that is the stash system that they have in the game, because this is how they're injecting most of their DLC content. So you can actually go to their stash system and go in here and use the stash system. So their vanilla stash system has, I think, 30 game objects that are like DLC content or like things that you obtain after you beat the game, like the crossbow and that kind of thing. I think I'm now up to 80, so that would actually put me at almost 50 armor pieces that I've created. One of the things that I think I mentioned early on that's still a difficulty, that I can't believe it's a difficulty, is that they don't have the ability to name these things quite as easy as I was hoping. So as far as like being able to actually go in here and name all this stuff, that's actually a bit of a challenge. And so the only problem I have right now is I can't name my armor sets. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually going through and trying to create visuals for them with the iconography to where at least they have solid icons so that you can kind of get the gist of that armor before you actually. So you will have to actually put it on to be able to see the change. Sadly, until I figure out how to tap into their naming system, which most of that looks like it is definitely pre-built, which is annoying. Buy armor. So I wanted to show you guys kind of first and foremost. So if we go in here to our extras, I might also have a couple still. Yeah, I still have a couple sitting in here, but for the most part, it looks pretty clean. So if we go over to our extras section, for each one of these, so like headgear and that kind of thing, basically the intimidating windbreaker is also modified by me because I want to make their PK armor a little bit better. But all of these different ones that you see in here are the custom armors. And so basically we can just go in here, and I guess I didn't need to throw them all away, but I was just kind of trying to show how the system currently is set up to where it's on a very basic timer, to where as you check out this armor, and this is not how this is intended to be used in the actual game. This is just for my testing system. This will all be added to the level system or the loot system to where you're not actually having to go and reimburse any of these or redeem them in the actual game when you guys get it. But you can see torsos is actually the longest list here. And yeah, I should have definitely not thrown all that armor away. I thought it would.
Do you know?
Sorry
to interrupt. I was just wondering if you knew whether we can have armor sets replacing some quest rewards and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was part that I was mentioning earlier, is that I'm trying to tap into that to where all these armor sets are kind of be geared around reward systems. So you're no longer just rewarded with generic XP and that kind of thing. You're actually rewarded with different pieces of armor sets and that kind of thing. The hope there is that it'll allow you to go into dark zones. It'll allow you to go into different areas with better armor. And the hope is that you guys try to build some of the armor sets that I'm creating here. Because I'm trying to actually create custom armor sets that if you put them all together, that you'll get even better perks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I really shouldn't have thrown this armor away. But as you guys can see, I mean, this is the amount of different armor sets that I've got added so far. And we'll go through each one of those here in a second. But basically, the armor sets, their icons are kind of tied to the class system that they're using currently. So for example, like the watch, that's the leisure system. I have actual like leather jackets and leather gear, so that's, you know, obviously crafting leather. And then let's see, some of the other things like the tools, like that's the actual workman class. So if you can imagine like a system to where if you go and you find the overalls in like the workers class, you get perks that allow you to increase or benefit your crafting systems a little bit better, that kind of thing. And again, most of those systems are a little bit finicky, so I'm trying to see what I can get away with as far as, you know, how far I can take a system like this. Because if this goes really well, then I'm going to be having a lot more fun with the crafting system, the loot system, and trying to see what all I can get away with. But I think probably the biggest thing is I wish I could actually make the crafting system allow you to craft weapons and decraft or dismantle weapons and all that good stuff. Oh, I think the inventory is full. We'll actually just go ahead and get rid of the ones that are not mine. That'll be a little bit easier to see anyway.
We can actually craft weapons and or armor eventually. That could lead to some pretty cool economic overhauls down the road.
Absolutely.
Make this a little less like I'm walking around with $150,000 in my pocket. What's up?
Well, exactly. So that's, you know, the hope is that even spending some of that money to unlock these different suits and different armor sets and stuff like that. Currently, the game just doesn't have enough diversity of content, I think, to make, you know, you really know what to do with most of that stuff after a certain point. So here's an example of, you guys have already seen like the hazmat gear, so we'll do the hazmat gear as kind of the first sample here. So as we find the different hazmat pieces, you can kind of combine these with different armor sets. There's different pants that you could find that go with the different ones, but the idea here is that so like some of them put on like special things, like this one it's set for the bracers, but it's actually putting on the gas tank in the back. So you can actually take the sleeves off here and just roam around with kind of an open suit here, which is obviously not quite as confined as a actual hazmat would be, but for aesthetic purposes, maybe you want to put different gloves on or bracers or whatnot. I'm still doing.
Goofy.
Sorry, go ahead.
It looks goofy. Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's okay. One of the things I'm currently looking for is the amount of options. So like there is like some current clipping. So some of the armors will definitely have issues with like clipping and that kind of thing. And that's something that I'm continuing to try to figure out the best way to deal with the clipping. But I'm essentially injecting armor sets that are not meant to go on the player. So it's kind of tentative on whether or not I'll be able to clean all of that up for each armor set. So I'm looking at which ones I'll release kind of based on how realistic they look or how much I can get away with. So here's like an example of the workman class. So if we go in here and select the workman class, I'm still working on little things like making sure that their arms appear. That's another one of like the clipping things. Certain armors are not meant to be on the player, as I mentioned, and so they hide elements on the player that I'm trying to fix. This one I actually think I was going to move over to the leather class, so that one just has the wrong icon right now. But having the ability to go in here and put on, and it's not very visually like, oh hell yeah, I've got my coveralls on, but it's this idea of like, I've got this heavier gear on for modifying and changing weapons and crafting and that kind of thing. So let's do another one here.
So turning it into an actual RPG like advertised.
Well, trying to. I don't know how much people are going to respond to that, because I know a lot of people mention they don't actually like the RPG elements of the game itself. But yeah, starting to look at that and just see like, okay, how much can we, without hurting the game, how much can we go in there and add to where it at least allows you guys to go and enjoy the game and explore and try to find those things that you normally wouldn't be able to find in the game. So even being able to put on a leisure suit, you can now put Aiden in a leisure suit if you choose to. Which again, trying to tie that to the actual like perks, and the reason you would do that being, if you could get the perks associated with that. So even the urban outfit, it's this idea of like, well, if we start to get more urban outfits, can we make trading with the survivors more likely, or can we make these the more common early on in the game? These are the ones that you're actually getting, which are have some perks associated, but they're definitely geared more towards you're starting out in this new world and you're working your way up kind of thing. Spread out that gap a little bit. And then the PK armor, I think I've had the most fun with kind of the PK armor is finding which this one's currently missing. It's different armor suits. But kind of finding which PK outfits and that kind of thing make your player, feel the most versed in the game, to where, if you want to go actually play a PK mission, you and your buddies could actually all load out in PK gear and actually go do like a PK mission. But also looking at, and it's a hope. And there's actually one pair of pants that I'm still trying to get to work. It doesn't work for some reason. But there's a hope that potentially by doing this, you could even influence your actual influence ratings in the game, to where, for example, if you're running around the map and you have PK armor on, the PK are more likely to come to your aid and that kind of thing. Now that is definitely like a stretch goal as far as like what could actually be pulled off very quickly, but it starts to lend more towards that, they don't have any way of knowing whether you're a PK or not at this point. You're completely doned out in PK gear, and they're just rushing to the aid of another fellow PK. So let's see. There's also military gear, so I'm working on finding all of the different military sets in the game. There's a couple of them kind of scattered onto different players, but the hope is, and one of the biggest, actually the biggest selling point of doing all this is that it is tedious. It does take time to go in and figure out all these things per player, and figure out how to get all these different armor sets and everything working correctly. But once I have all of these set up with their appropriate, and you can see here that this is just where I haven't added the ARM models to them yet, mainly because this is the ARM model. So I did get this ARM model working. The problem with this one is that it now clips with the gloves. So if you put the gloves on, certain gloves actually clip. And so I'm still trying to find a better way to do the hands or the arms and everything to where it actually cuts off at the end. But they didn't design any of this to be that way, and so turning the material of the hands off is actually much more difficult than one would hope, and so it takes a lot of time to make sure that that's done correctly. But the hope here, and I think what I was leading into, is this: that there's a couple of characters in the game, and there's a couple of story arcs that, as a lot of you are aware, were not quite finished out, in the sense that you have this group, the Colonel's Men, and you have all these factions that will be arriving with DLC content. This is setting it up to where it is very easy to go and update their armor as well. So having actual unique characters in the game out in the open world is also the goal here, so that you actually can figure out which ones work and play the nicest, and then once you've solved all that, going and plugging and playing all of this back into the game, so that the player benefits, but then also the actual visuals of the different storytelling components also get increased as well. So with that, I'll also be doing, so I've got several zombie packs that I'm coming up with here that will be released here in the near future as well, where I have quite a few different things that I'll be doing with the zombies, to where the zombies are also getting visual aesthetics, and then hopefully, seeing how I got this working, maybe one day I can even get my custom zombies in there. That would be nice. Let's see. So I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions here. I see that you guys have a couple of conversations going on. Yeah, so basically, they've got their, if I wrote a game, I would pull the string values into the game, so I would register string values that would then get pulled into descriptions and stuff like that. They're actually pre-baking these names. So if you go in here and you see like that intimidating gauntlets, rare gloves, the little banner, the icons, all that stuff, they're actually pre-baking some of that to where the names themselves, from everything I can figure out, they're actually just calling an actual visual PNG or something. They're actually just calling a picture of a name. They're not actually just printing a string. So the idea of being able to go in there and create custom names, if the image doesn't exist, then you can't call the custom name. And so I was researching last week the idea of injecting custom images and that kind of thing into the game, and so far that causes some serious issues. So I'm still kind of struggling with the best way to get the names and everything set up as well. I think I'm getting a little bit of feedback from you after Men's. Do you mind hitting the mute there? So unless you guys have any questions, I'm trying to keep a track on the different conversations going on the side here on the Discord. But any questions you have, feel free to drop them into the channel there as you're doing, and I'll answer. So I think next I'm going to show, hey Savitar, thanks for joining. For the next part here, I'm going to actually show you guys how I'm creating these custom armor sets, and like kind of the process that I'm doing to go through and figure out which sets work. It is tedious, it takes time, but the end results are actually pretty fun. So I am still having fun with it. Like I said, it does take a minute to get it all figured out, but the end result, I think, is going to result in some pretty interesting loot systems, some pretty interesting new armor sets that you can go enjoy the game with. And kind of the whole focus here is that I want to make co-op more fun as well, to where people are actually able to share gear or find gear sets out in the world that complete sets and that kind of thing. I know that's a big one for playing games like Diablo and Grim Dawn and a bunch of other games that are more RPG based with armor sets. And actually I started working on my Dying Light 2 or Dying Light 1 mod again, and I was actually disappointed that there's just so much you're kind of downgrading when it comes to the characters themselves. If I know a lot of people are frustrated with this latest version of the game, the only reason that this is even possible is that they have a crazy system built into their game, which is where it is doing live skinning of characters, which is insane. So I work in the game industry. I make models all the time for my company. I make humanoids. I make armor. I make all sorts of stuff. And most of the time you make all of that stuff beforehand, you put it on the model beforehand, and if you're trying to make something like a character creator or something like that, it all has to be done so methodical to make sure that it all works correctly with your blend shapes and all that good stuff. But with this, they are literally attaching arms, they are literally attaching vertices on run, and that's pretty amazing. So that's actually what allows you to do a lot of the gib systems where you're cutting arms off and that kind of thing. So I'm really excited to see what they do with that in the future, because compared to the first game is just literally a single model. That's it. It's all pre-baked. It's all pre-rendered. You don't have the options to go piecemeal them together like I'm doing now. And so because of that is a huge advantage for the modding community compared to the first game, because you can't inject custom models. We can't get to any of their stuff for making custom models and getting it into their games. And you can't mix and match their models at all. And that includes materials. So all of their materials are like optimized as they should be, down to single texture sheets for a single player. It's how you're supposed to do it. And so because of that, it just makes your modding abilities so much more limited. So it's way more fun for Dying Light 2 for sure. Okay, I'm going to switch over really quick to show you guys how I'm doing this, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the thread, and I'm going to continue to try to work on some of this armor stuff here today. The goal is to try to get enough armor sets to where I switch over to where I'm then balancing out the actual, so I haven't gone through and started giving them affixes, which is their perks and bonuses, and then once I have some of those set up, then it's actually then bringing them into the loot systems and that kind of thing. So I'll be working on a lot of that today, and you guys are more than welcome to come hang out and join me while I'm doing that, and I'll be going through. I did also just notice this Opera DLC. They've got an arena now. I've seen a few things in here where they're talking about an arena in the code. Has anybody found a new DLC arena? Okay, so what I'm doing is, and again, tedious, but also kind of interesting. What I'm doing is I'm going through, and for now I'm doing male characters, but I'm going through and looking at the interesting models. So basically underneath the model files is where you'll find all of the different meshes and then their materials. So I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty yet of changing the color on the materials. That's a whole nother ball game. So I've done lots of testing. I can do it. I know how to do it. I just haven't done it yet, because first getting the different models available is the first step. Once we have the first step completed, making those legendary items with custom materials and all that good stuff, that's another big part of that that's coming up. But so for this, we're first going to kind of turn over. So where I usually stick is my outfits underscore visualization.dev. This is where they are basically just setting a mesh for each one of these. So this is the easiest part of it, is that as you're finding new candidates for your meshes, you can just kind of go and assign these here, and then you can also set up the materials if you want to. But so basically the idea is what I'm doing right now is going through and looking at these very interesting different NPCs. There's this one that they've got called Abandon, which I'm not sure yet. I haven't completed my game yet, so again, I'm not sure if all these players are even in the game. But what I'm doing is quickly loading up the game and doing two parts. So each load, I'm setting up a couple of custom armor sets, making sure that those can load in, and then I'm also setting up a test model as a player outfit that allows you to visualize these different models. So I'm setting this up to where I can go quickly visualize those and figure out what clothing they're wearing. So the last one I did was Jack's. So here's one called the Journalist. So I just go and copy. I don't copy all the way up because I've got some things that I've written on my test model. So we're just going and pasting this in, hitting save. For both the first person and the third person perspective. And then we just go back to our source, drag it on, game's updated, and we just hit launch. So we're going to find out what the Journalist looks like. And most of the time I get a little sneak preview here at the start because I've set this outfit as the default. So when it's loading in, I can quickly see who we got in there. So it looks like the guy in the leisure suit that I did. So save time. I already have a leisure suit. So to just speed things up here so that you guys can kind of see the process, we won't waste time with characters that I've already set up there. Models. What you can do is that if you find interesting materials that you're like, oh, I've got that model, but look at how they changed, the materials there. That looks way more interesting, or, I really like how they made it look for this one character. Most of the stuff that they're doing in the game is just material updates. So they use the same mesh, and that's really how you're supposed to do it for optimization purposes, but it's the same mesh, different material. So then here it looks like we got an interesting fisherman hat, which I haven't gone through and made new hats yet. Most of those I'm assuming I'm going to make armor, not actual fishing hats and stuff like that, though I guess I could. What I've been trying to find out how to do, and what I'm still researching, is how to take the visual appearance of the main skeleton, which is Aiden, and actually changing Aiden to other characters so that you can play as a female, or change your ethnicity, and then you could put armor on that person. So that's what I'm also actively researching, is how to get it a step further to where you could actually kind of choose who you want to play as. So here we kind of have your standard rolled sleeves. So this is actually the PK. This is actually the PK uniform, or one of the PK uniforms that I've already got. But they've got this interesting stripes, and then they've also got the standard pants. So this is Survivor Pants 01. So the only thing interesting about this guy that I haven't really seen before is this hat. I don't know what that hat is, but he has definitely got an interesting hat there. So what I've been trying to do is just kind of as I go, if I see something that's okay, if I ever want to do a hat update in the future, or hair, I'm also doing hair. But if I see something interesting as far as an interesting hat, I just kind of throw this in. That way, hopefully in the future we can figure out how to write custom quests and that kind of thing, but you're gonna need to know what all these models are, and if you're doing this every single time, it's very taxing. So we got a Luca, we got a Mahala. Go ahead and grab Mahala because that's a very interesting name. And we're gonna go in here, and again, we're just gonna copy this over. Let's save. And we'll go ahead and load in. See how fun? And if you set it up to where you're using the outfit system, that's really what the saving grace with all this is. It's because that's how I'm now doing my custom zombies. That's how I'm doing all this stuff, is that you just load it into an outfit system, and then you take what you want to take and ignore what you want to ignore. It's like it's almost like a medieval surf kind of appearance there. See, we got a comment on the YouTube, but it's blocked. Let me pull that up. Hey Anders, thanks for dropping the question on YouTube. Hopefully you're still on here for me to answer. If not, you'll view my recording. And so the question was, would you say Notepad++ or Sublime Text is more efficient to use with Dying Light 2 modding compared to files, editing stuff, etc.? I think it's each his own kind of thing. So if I'm doing single line edits, I just use Notepad++ because it does excellent memory retention. So even if you accidentally close out of your editor, it saves all the information to where it's all there. If you need to go back and look at it again, it's all sitting right there. For searching files or doing massive replacement, Sublime 3 is actually excellent for that. I tried using Visual Studio and some other things, but got very frustrated that I couldn't find a good way to test my methods and that kind of thing before launching into the game. Matter of fact, I've had several computer scientists jump on and talk to me about like, oh, you should try it like this, or write your values like this. And most of the time, the sad thing is that it doesn't really matter how I would want to write it. It doesn't really matter how a computer scientist would think it should be written. It actually just matters how they wrote it. So maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it's against everything you would think. And for some of those cases, I think it really is that it really is just kind of like off the wall kind of solutions sometimes. But the idea there is that if you can figure out how they wrote it and how they intended to write it, then that's really all you need. So the only thing I saw here that's like kind of interesting was the bracelet. If I figure out how to do, female characters to where you can actually play as a female, then I'll come back to that. Accessories, but bracelets and all that good stuff. Bracelets and female hair cover. Okay, and we'll just keep going. So some of these are potentially early editions of characters they ended up using, because I know that with some of these, I've seen these names before. So like if I scroll up here, where's the issue that... Hang on one second. It's that they're PK. So they have like a PK version, and then they have a survivor version. But both are marked as abandoned, which is interesting. Is there, maybe one of you guys can clue me in here, is there a moment where characters like a Maverick or, a Paco or any of them where they would be changing their loyalties or shifting over to different armor? Because maybe they're exiled from a location or something? Because most of these are like, they set them up in two different armors. One is for their PK role and one is as a survivor outfit. Here we have Mr. Smith.
The only one I can think of, but I genuinely don't remember if he changed his outfit or not, Is that PK who's looking to leave the city with his girl who's not really his girl?
Yeah. Okay.
But I genuinely don't remember if he changes his outfit or not. It just came to mind.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I wonder if they are called abandoned. So I really wonder if these are just characters that didn't make the cut. Which is actually, so I've got a whole list. So that's actually what led me towards the armor system. Is that it actually kind of bothered me a little bit that they essentially took 9 outfits, I think. Yeah, it's like 9 outfits for every single class. So the ranger, melee, and healer, and then they made 9 meshes, and then they just changed the material. So they have really only 9 armors per class. So you have 27 armors in the game essentially currently. And then you can change the materials on some of those things, but that's essentially it. So the prompting here was kind of looking at like, okay, how can we go in here and say like, okay, what else is available? So I think this is actually a different shirt. So what I'll do is I'll make this part of the urban kit. So I'll show you guys. Finally, I found one. So let me show you guys how I'm doing this. So essentially, what we need to do is I've got this over on my test character. If we go back to our outfits visualization, I'll go to our urban character or our urban class, and we'll go in here and we're going to grab a torso. I'm just going to increment by 1, and essentially how they've got their code set up is that underneath each one, it's calling a method which is changing a mesh on a bound character. So you have a bound skeleton that is getting loaded into the system, and then you have a method call that is going and setting and replacing a mesh on that skeleton. So you can't really do a lot here other than kind of work with the method calls that they've got. But potentially that's why I want to start looking at how can I make it do a method call that changes the skeleton. But we'll look at that later. So for now, this is an example of where I'm setting 3 meshes, and what this will do is it'll toggle off the mesh that is responsible for the section of armor that you're assigning it to. So if you're setting this to a torso and they don't have any arm representation underneath, the skeleton has its skin turned off underneath, then if you put a short sleeve shirt on it, then you also have to put arms on it because it doesn't have any arms, which is what you guys saw with some of those different t-shirts and stuff like that. You have to come up with arms for that t-shirt. So for this one, I can see that it starts out with a torso part 4. So they've got a bunch of different pieces that are coming together to make this outfit, which is fun because once I actually establish the main files that are able to do this without breaking, then you can go in there and say like, okay, well, let's make a version that has a scarf and not have a scarf, and then we'll set those to different materials. So now you actually have, it's really the same outfit, but you can toggle off certain parts of the mesh and that kind of thing, and come up with different solutions. So what we do here is I usually start from the bottom. So we'll grab this scarf and we have to just kind of confirm that all of this stuff works. So I usually work from the bottom and work my way up. Here's another piece of it. It's the torso belt. It actually says female belt, which is interesting. Actually, all of these say female belt. Then we have the torso, also registered as female, which is interesting. And then let's see if we have one more. We have a decal. Normally I try to stay away from those because usually those are things like the PK symbol or whatever. So most of the time I just leave those off, because then it will look a little bit different from how you see it in the rest of the game. So it's a little bit different, which helps with the whole you're just tearing clothes off characters that you see every day kind of thing. So it adds a little bit of difference. And then this is all before I'm doing any new materials. So again, once you get this set up how you want it, then you can add custom materials and that kind of thing, and have a lot more fun with it. Sadly, a lot of these very specific clothing types, unless they set up it, unless they set this model up to where it has already a bunch of them already made. You have, I don't know if you know what a UV map is for a model. If they haven't created alternatives, then I'm kind of trying to look now at what I can do to find generic textures that could at least tile nicely across the entire thing, because otherwise I can't get access to their UVs and any of that stuff. So because of that, trying to make it look as realistic as possible. So once we have a torso set up, so now we have this concept of the Urban Torso 3, we need to switch over to our inventory outfits, which if we go back up to our, so that's melee, leisure, PK, vests, worker, leather, urban. So once we get to urban, we just go in here and copy our urban 2, and then we'll just increment by 1 on both of these things. So basically on this file structure, what it's doing is it's pulling in all of these files that it's setting up for the armor itself, and then for the visualization, it's actually calling a method which is pulling that information from a different file into this file. So you don't actually have to go in here and do any of the work that I have to do on outfits visualization because of the way that this .def definition file is being handled. They're just injecting the result. So they're probably doing some weird binding code or whatever on the outfit visualizations. So you have to kind of pull that information after it's been set up, kind of thing. So it does take a second to kind of figure out how some of these systems are set up. But so now we've got up an Urban 03. Once we have an Urban 03 set up, then I go back over to the stash DLL, and this is where I'm then just creating a line here in our stash that says give me 77, and then I just go and change this to 3, and that's actually pants. We want torso, so we're going to get torso Urban 03. We save the stash, and then for the urban collection, I'm giving it the newspaper icon for now. And what I'm trying to do is also to help with this, otherwise it's very visually confusing, is I'm trying to go in here and say, okay, so this is white, this is green, so this next one will be blue. And so it'll at least also change the coloring of the icon as well to blue, so now we can go like, oh, there's our one. So we're looking for a blue newspaper in our torso selection. So then we just go in here, we drag this over, we're updated, launch the game. And I think the part that's probably going to take the most time is just going through all these characters and finding the different cool armor sets that I want to do first. And so that's why I put up this week as well. Instead of today, I'm going to try to push out an update today. But if I continue to find really interesting things to add to the game, I'm going to continue to make that 1.1 update pretty substantial. And so that way we can get lots of hot fixes, lots of new content. People can do lots of testing for me, because I don't really want to. Most of the time with the file versioning, when I'm doing like 1.0, I try to keep it to 1.0 and then add kind of alpha, beta, Charlie, delta, that kind of thing as hot fixes are done. So I don't want to release this too early and then only have like half the armor that I would want to create, kind of thing, because then I have to update another, or I have to do another major update. So here's our little blue newspaper. It sends it over to your inventory first. So we'll go to our inventory. There's our blue newspaper. Open this up. And there we go. So now we've got our little custom shirt here. It's got its scarf. I am curious if I take the scarf off, what's underneath the scarf, because I actually have been very interested by the amount of scarves in this game. It was definitely made overseas, where they really appreciate a good scarf. No offense to anybody that lives overseas that is offended by people wearing scarves or me saying that they like scarves. I'm just assuming that people overseas from the US really enjoy scarves, because we don't wear as many scarves here. So let's try to fix this issue. So currently, and actually that's something I'm still trying to look at, is I don't really know the best fix for this currently, because they haven't. Let me see if the original file can offer any support here. So basically, the problem is that they have these hands that they're putting on their NPCs. So if we go down here to hands, here's our hands, and they're doing this Bravo mesh, which for some reason works sometimes and doesn't. No idea why it sometimes doesn't work. I think it's a layering issue with how the binding is going. But essentially all I have to do is go here, add the hands line, and then we'll launch again. And while I'm at it, this is also where I was trying to say, I'm trying to do multiple things at once. We've now got that one character. We pulled off the only thing that we really wanted from him. Let's go and grab another character and get him added to the game as well, so that way we can test our next character as well. Keep this rolling. Okay, so then we go here, this up, copy that over, and we launch. So this will allow me to check both the new character and the hands that I just added to that one outfit. Hey, Effort Fighter over on the YouTube channel. Thanks for posting. Well, a big part of the mod updates was the actual game update. So that was not really by choice. But for the I was working on this armor update, and in conjunction with the armor update is actually a loot update. I was working on that before they did the actual 1.40 update. And so sadly I've had way too many updates this month compared to normally. I would like to try to space them out a little bit more, but I am trying to get this update out so that you guys are able to enjoy some of this new content. So here we kind of have like this jean jacket. I believe the necklace is probably separate, so as far as like an urban outfit, and then I think his pants are actually, that might not be the slacks. And this is actually how I've been testing in here to see if it's just where they've got a different skin on there. Basically, we can just go here to our joggers, grab the watch, I throw it onto this character, and then we just toggle. No, so it's, I'm trying to think if that's, I might not have actually seen these before. Make sure we grab the different pants here just so we don't waste a lot of time here. Or actually, when I get back to the character file, I can test that. So what we're looking for is actually the blue newspaper to test that torso with the hands. Yeah, it'll save a lot of time to just do it outside the game. Okay. So we got our blue newspaper here, and there we go. So it has hands now. So you have to kind of go through and do that on a case by case based on how they're binding the skeletons. So I've got a couple of different armors that I'm going to continue to improve, but now we have another urban outfit for Aiden that he can use, and more than likely there's probably a few different material changes for this outfit. So first is getting the mesh itself working and just making sure that looks correct, and then it's applying the different materials to it. I'm sure there's lots of different variations and different things we can do here, and I like this one a little bit more because it actually has those rolled sleeves, so the clipping is not as bad as it usually is with some of the full the full sleeve solution. So you guys will have to forgive me on some of the visual clipping on the models, just because without being able to get access to the models itself, there's not much you can do for those, sadly. So for him, this actually might be different because of these sneakers. I don't think I've actually seen these sneakers before, but it has these like the tie strings in the front. I feel like I've seen that on one of the pants before, but I swear that one had a hole in the front. So maybe this is a different one. And then he's got the standard hat there. But let's go look at his files here to see if there's anything we can use here. So here's his sleeves. So you could actually make this a sleeveless shirt if you wanted to. Here's the chain. So as far as an accessory goes, you'd actually go over here to accessories and add the chain mesh here.
So I have a question for you, right? So you can't currently make custom models for the custom armor pieces, right?
Maybe expound on that a little bit.
Like the items, the items you use to equip the armor pieces, like they're all newspapers or blueprints. And I'm asking, like, you can't make custom models for those here, right?
Do you mean icons?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, currently I cannot, because I can't upload images to the game, and so I can't. I'm actually lucky that some of them even have somewhat visual representations that somewhat match what I'm going for, because I'm kind of at the mercy of, based on how they're doing their R packs, they have all of that stuff sealed up, and you can't inject into it, and so because of that, it's, I'm at the mercy of whatever icons they actually already have in the game. Kind of the same as the names. I can't even put names on there, so. Again,
I think I did see someone comment about getting custom R packs loading. I'll have to look at that. Look for that somewhere.
Well,
It's in this Discord some.
Yeah, so they were talking about the prefabs, if that's the same one you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's probably that.
Yeah, so that was actually something that I fought for a long time there. So in the prefabs in particular is the settings that I've had in the mod for a long time that allows you to like run inside of the different bases and climb and not, make you holster your weapons, not use flashlights. There's all sorts of little settings that I've had in the prefabs for a long time that never worked. And I think based on his solution, I haven't checked yet, he's basically removing that prefabs file. I think the problem with that is I would have to go prefab by prefab and compare, but I can't guarantee that the files they're putting in the data 0 prefabs are actually anywhere close to the actual ones they're using in the game. Like, it would force the system to find prefabs, sure, but I think one of the challenges is that the files that are in the data 0, most of those are super old, like very old, like Dying Light 1 old. And so because of that, just because it has prefabs doesn't mean that every prefab in there is the ones that they're currently using in the game. So I would also not encourage, for my mod, I wouldn't want anybody deleting files. Just because it's going to run into so many technical problems, so many technical questions that, I'm going to lose half the people because they've bricked their game or whatever. They're having to re-download their game and stuff like that. So I'm personally trying to stay away from those. But if you guys figure out whether or not that one's a sure bet, then it would be interesting to look at it here in the future. But as far as the custom R packs, they've got an encryptor, so I can actually bring up. So I purchased it. Thank you guys again for your donations. I purchased this one system called the Game Extractor, which, let me size this so that you guys can actually see this in the full stream here. Gotta love ultra wide. We can actually go over here to open our archives, and you can see I'm actually already in the Dying Light 2, and here's all the R packs that they have in the game. So you can actually use this system and you don't have to buy the main version. I bought the main version to find out if I could extract files and then inject files, which you cannot. It doesn't have anywhere near the compression and decompression that it would need to do that. So you have this idea of common textures. So if I load this up, and they did this all the way back to what was the gunslinger game that they did, where you could play as the Indian and the cowboy, and Call of Juarez. They did this all the way back to Call of Juarez, where inside here you have this concept of the .png. So these are all the things I need right here. You have the diffuse maps, you have the normal maps, occlusion maps, rough maps, spec maps. It's all there. I mean, I would die happy if I could get access to these files. But they've got a .0 and a .1 in front of it. That's where they've run software on it to encrypt it. So they've encrypted their files with their own encryptor, I'm sure, and they've made it to where you can't get to the actual file unless you uncrypt it. Now, there are other ones out there, so I've used other tools that will extract the files when you play. You can load it into the back end, load it into the renderer, and it will pull files out of the game to where you end up with all the files. I've done that, and I've gotten all the different zombies. So, for example, I've got all their textures and all their normal maps and all that stuff. The nightmare is I got all of it without their names, without all that. So technically, I could take this, and I could take those files, and I could guess which files were which, name them correctly using this information. The problem is that I still haven't found a way to either add to the .pack file or the rpack file these files that would actually then be loaded into the engine, because I think the engine is also looking for this encryption. Because when I tried again the other day to actually pull a PNG into the game, it saw the pack file, it saw the file, and then it just did nothing with it. So, I think they've prepared for this a little bit more than we might give them credit for, and I think most of these things date all the way back to their very early games. Their engine has always been set up that way, sadly.
So if we do eventually manage to crack it, we might still have it cracked for future games then.
Exactly, because I think they are, well, until they find out you've cracked it.
So keep it hush.
Yeah, because I mean, essentially that's what happens, right? So like with the dev console mod developer, they shut him down pretty quickly. He was on the channel for a long time there, and I've met with several other teams that they've worked on different projects with these games that they've done very interesting stuff. The problem is that they're doing it, I wouldn't say illegally, but it's like the company has issued public statements saying that they don't endorse it, they don't want it, don't use it, that kind of thing, and then they're kind of continuing on with that development, but they're on like forums and stuff like that, and they turn it into kind of like a fight the man kind of thing because they're being told not to do it. More power to them. Do what all they need to do. It's just, I just want people to enjoy the game without having to worry that they're going to get banned from servers or any of that nonsense.
So what I'm hearing is hey, you guys aren't allowed to make the game better.
Well, it's a monetization thing, right? So even where I'm going in here and making all these models or new armors, that technically makes their update, like I am still kind of nervous about doing as much of this that I do because it's a lot of hours, and B, I'm improving their game and they're getting the revenue, so I could just go write my own game. And then C is that if they chose to shut it down, because this in some way, if I release all of these new armors and they're only releasing skins in their DLCs, they could technically start to make the argument, well, these mods are actually making our game updates not draw in as many people as they should, because they're all about they want the cash.
It sounds to me like they want to get by with lazy monetization, so they restrict our ability to make modifications.
I can't speak for the company. I'm just saying that most of the time these types of games, I think the Call of Duties of the world have kind of shown that gold-plated MP5s are really what a majority of the online game base want. And so because of that, they're releasing the stuff for the people that want the achievements or want the multiplayer play to show they have the best armor and stuff like that. They're kind of catering to them, not the player base that wants the most realistic game or wants all the other things out of it. Like I said,
storyline.
I've already done 7 years of this with the first game, so it's you kind of, I got a good window in on that one, and it really hasn't changed that much.
The market you're referring to is probably children, because like I had never heard any other age group that cares so much about skins.
Oh yeah, but the children are the ones that it's the new industry, man. Parents are giving their kids, $100 gift cards or whatever to go buy whatever skins or whatever they want, and this new Diablo game, this free to play, pay to win,
no.
that is yeah, we can talk about it all day. I'm sure. I'm just saying like that is fueling the industry these days. So it's kind of hard.
It's going downhill because of people are realizing that it's just the most blatant cash grab there is.
Well, yeah, and I will say that since I graduated college, I've been approached by many casino companies that they're doing the new mobile casino games because they're also making an absolute killing. If it was popular before to have people gamble, inside of casinos, it's even more popular that they could gamble from their bathtub kind of thing. So it's just it's a new world when it comes to that kind of stuff.
The unfortunate thing is, despite all the reviews and whatnot for Blizzard, for example, Diablo Immortal was a success because all they need is a few whales willing to drop 50 to 100K on the game, and that more than makes up for everyone else that left.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
And that's just I think also we come from I think certain game players come from a different time where quality games is what we wanted, not big explosions. And it's the Transformers of movie generation. What's his name that did Transformers? Big explosions, lots of sci-fi lens flare. It's it doesn't mean it's a quality video. It means it was fun and intense and crazy in the theaters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you want my opinion on my take on what Dying Light 2 is, right? My personal opinion, I think Dying Light 2 is a good game, right?
Yeah.
But like you're saying, it's not that even that far off from being like a really good game. It's because they dropped the ball on some places, right? Like this game looked like it was only in development for like 3 years, and they said like, you know what? We probably should release this game now, right? Like it clearly needed some more time in the oven, right? These face animations, they are not that good. They're like Dying Light 1 level. This game is a 2022 game. I don't know why you still got face animations look like this. And then the run animations, those aren't that good either. NPC animations, like you over here, you have to massively overhaul the NPCs because they did like a subpar job with it. Like from what I can tell, what you guys are saying is wrong with the game is like they were so close to making it good, but they just dropped the ball in some places.
Well, the game was actually, so this game has been in development since 2017, I think. So it was, and actually I think they announced it back in 2016. And that's why so much of the original game is based on Dying Light 1. But that's the way it goes with these companies, man. They start their development cycles after the first one was a hit. They immediately say like, okay, how can we make number 2? And I think this one was meant to land back in like 2018. 17. This one was supposed to hit long ago. And then it ran into all sorts of technical hiccups. And then staffing hiccups and all the things that people have been talking about on the channels. It's just it hit so many delays that I think at this point, my take on this is that they supported Dying Light 1 for 7 years of updates, which is insane. And because of that, I think they're doing the same thing with this one. They're getting the game out so that they can earn the money that they need to support it, and then they're going to support it. The problem is, I think that people are expecting more these days, and the market has changed as far as that goes. I mean, I can't even imagine writing my own game sometimes because I'm just sitting there going like, the player base has become so much more, I won't say needy, they've just become very accustomed to systems behaving in a certain way. They believe very strongly in the AAA game, to where if it is a AAA game, it meets certain criteria of playability and that kind of thing. And it always makes me...
It should, though.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing is that when you think about it in terms of like a game company, technically speaking, it doesn't have to. They didn't. If it's a startup, most of the time, yes. Like if it was a startup that they made all these promises and everybody spent millions of dollars supporting it and stuff like that. That's where Crytek, or not Crytek, but Cyberpunk ran into its issues. Is that it had lots of backers and supporters that they made promises and stuff like that, and then they released the game and it wasn't what they promised. But for Dying Light 2, if you think about it, they didn't have to deliver most of the systems that they did. It's just you expect them to. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not saying that I'm condoning anything. I'm just saying it's a game company. I mean, they can make the game how they want to make the game.
I think that's fair, and I actually, it's one of the things I commented on the Discord channel the other day. I wouldn't have minded almost any of this if they hadn't, since the early days, promised a certain experience.
Sure.
That, that's my main gripe there. Like, it's a great game.
Yeah.
I enjoy playing it. But you promised me that my decisions were going to have an impact on the world, not just this last-minute decision to drain the city.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing.
I think that's where people kind of get upset, because when there's an established developer making these promises, and you already gave them your trust because of the first game, you're just kind of giving them that trust again. And a lot of people pre-ordered and whatnot based on that.
Right. Oh,
I mean, since he already... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, well, since he already mentioned it, I might as well be honest and tell you, like, there's only 3 decisions that really matter in the game, and then even then, the ending doesn't even change wildly depending on these decisions. I mean, there's a total of, I believe, 4 endings. Mm-hmm. There's one that actually means something, and then there's 3 of the others that are basically the same thing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, though, is that if you look back, historically speaking, on different games that have been made, most of the games, there are the odd occasion to where they have gotten in the idea of choice into their game. And those games are outstanding when they do. I mean, there are a couple of games out there. Wastelands is one that does it. The early Fallout games, they did some of that. BioShock, they did that. They did it really well in BioShock because you never saw it coming, and they didn't tell anyone. That was the best part about it, is they didn't tell anybody there were multiple endings, which blew everybody away. And so I think that's the problem, right? Is that you make claims of choice, and now you're talking about what types of choices people would like to make, and it's a sandbox. Most of the time, when you get into like the level of choice that you could make for your game, you could make millions of choices. It comes down to like, what choices did they put into the game, and do players think that those choices actually mean anything? And I think that's the thing, is that most people have just told everyone all the things that I've read is that people don't agree with the level of choice. It's not that the choice doesn't exist, it's the fact that the choices they allowed you to do didn't meet the standard that people wanted to have for choice. You know what I mean? So it's not that they didn't do it, it's just it wasn't
set up for themselves, I'd say.
Yeah. But I mean,
I think it's just, we need to get back to a world just like my mom and dad taught me. You under promise and over deliver. That's what we need to get back to.
Absolutely, because I mean, but and again, I think the problem is that this game ran into so many development pitfalls that I think the challenge that I was hearing is that the game almost got canceled multiple times. There used to be a Dying Light 2, or was it? It wasn't Dead Island. Was it Dead Island?
Yeah, there was Dead Island.
Dead Island 2?
Yeah.
Was that the one? There was one in California that they were working on there for forever. This one. They went on and on. They released the different videos. They had the sandbox. You could go explore around the city. This one artist that I, in particular, absolutely loved his work. They sent him out to California to 3D scan palm trees and buildings and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so they had this whole game in the sandbox that I think you can actually download the sandbox for this one now, and it absolutely just disappeared. It didn't make it. It failed. Nobody ever heard about it again. And then not that much longer, you had Dying Light came out, and they pulled most of those systems into Dying Light, but they were separate games, for a long time there. It was Dead Island, the Dead Island series, and then the Dying Light series. And so, with this one, we could have just not gotten a game at all, based on what I was reading. It was very likely that they were about to not publish the game at all. And so I guess it's just kind of weighing whether or not it was better to release it or not release it at all. I guess that's what it comes down to.
But here's
I like to
thing. Oh, right, go.
Oh no, please go ahead.
Okay, but here's the other thing, though, right? And this has to do with the conversation that you've had a lot, right? The problem is that if you know you can't finish your game on your own, right, or they released it in this state or whatever, right?
Sure.
Then why are you over here getting mad at modders that are trying to make your game better? If anything, what I would have done is that if I knew my game would have made it out but not met wouldn't have met all the expectations, right? I would have been like, okay, listen, I'm gonna let modders help me with some of the work, right? Either I try and get some modders on my team and pay them, or I'd allow the creative people just mod my game or whatever, right? And I wouldn't be mad and think it's drawing away profit because you still have to buy the game at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I would. I would be more supportive of modders if I was in their position.
What were you going to say, Hipknot?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's ultimately why I made the decision to buy the game, even though I wasn't happy with it. I waited till your mod came out, of course, because I wasn't gonna be able to play the base game.
Sure.
But I was like, they still deserve my money over it. Now the deluxe and all that crap, no, absolutely not paying double the game price for some extra skins. But yeah, I still do think they deserve the $40 for $50, whatever I paid. Yeah, but I do agree with the effort fighter said over here. They're thinking about longevity in the wrong way. They could have longevity a la Skyrim, where, hell, they could resell the base game 5 times over. But no, they're thinking about longevity in terms of how many, armor packs are we going to be able to sell over the next 5 years.
Well, and actually, before, I didn't want to interrupt what you were going to add on to that. Yay, another top. Is that... Oh, actually, there's a little gap there in between his hand. I gotta add that's so annoying. I gotta add a little random glove or skin just for that one little stupid gap. But I was actually gonna mention Skyrim as someone. So I actually got started. It's actually kind of funny. And Anders, I still see you online. Thanks for chipping in on the adding your opinion on the YouTube. I'm still watching that as well. Actually, if you go to the Nexus, I actually got started back in 2004 modding Morrowind way back, and then years later I did Skyrim as well, and then Fallout 4 as well. And I think probably the most telling thing for me when I was playing and modding Skyrim is that you had all of these designers and developers for all these years developing mods for Skyrim. And you had Bethesda who was saying like, oh yeah, we support our modders, like yeah, we, it's all good stuff. And then you have some weird things where then all of a sudden they did a mandatory update to the game to do special edition, which absolutely broke every modder's mods. So everybody had to start back over. So it's like, okay, everybody's starting back over. That's fine. They made the game better. But did they? Because actually, if you played with the ENBs back on Old Rim actually looked better than Special Edition, which was a huge one for me, is I actually enjoyed Old Rim way better than I liked the new version because the engine updates they did looked worse than the ENB stuff. And it broke all the support for ENBs. And to this day, you still can't mod that game the way you could for Old Rim. So then all the modding community's like, okay, sure, what the hell, we'll make our mods again. So everybody starts making their mods again, and then they find all these little areas that are changed in the game to where they can't do certain things with the mod, or with the engine that they used to be able to. So it's like, okay, why'd they get rid of this? So then we're modding a little bit more, and then all of a sudden it's like, Skyrim or Bethesda comes out with their official mod support. So then they had their mod support where they're hiring creatives to create mods. So then they made some official mods, and then they made paid mods. And then it was like...
Yeah, I can understand.
And all of those were garbage. And so everybody's sitting there going like, paid mods that are worse? And so then there was court cases where they had paid mods that were stolen content from actual modders, where they just, took their ideas and sometimes took their actual files and made paid mods. I mean, it was like controversy for sure, for both Skyrim and for Fallout. And then they finally ironed it all over. And then I just found out the other day they just released the anniversary edition of Skyrim, which broke mods again. So it's like, for a game that since 2009 has made the most profit of any game off the modding community, they actually treat their modding community pretty bad, in the sense that they don't really actually support a lot of the actual modders. They support their modders.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% there. Like, Bethesda's been dropping the ball, not trying to squeeze extra revenue wherever they can. But at least, we're talking the core philosophy of like having the creation kit out there from the beginning. Having,
Sure.
To some extent, every company at some point is going to let greed get in the way. That's just how companies are. But I guess it's just a certain core philosophy that I just prefer, at least when I see a game get released, I like it if the game's released with modding tools. That already tells me something about I can be playing this game for the next 5 years.
Exactly.
For the next 6, 7, 8 years.
Exactly. It has longevity built into the title because they support their mods.
Mm-hmm. Even though they might not support the modders.
Correct. And
Would you...
all I was going to say is that at least they put out the full engine, so you can download the full engine of Skyrim, Fallout, and that's the reason that you can do what you can do with those games, is because they released all of it, which they have not done for Dying Light. They released modding tools, which was a map building system that only worked externally. It did not work with any of their files. It didn't allow you to go in and edit campaigns or really see most of the code that they were actually using in the game. It just allowed you to make Dying Light 1 content.
So what I was gonna say is, right, would you really say that every company caves into greed at some point? Like, I don't know a lot of companies.
Just to be clear, that was just a hasty generalization. Like, my family, we run companies where we actually during COVID took out of our own pocket so we didn't have to fire anyone, right? I was just being general, but what I mean by that is that you have to make certain decisions relating to profit versus like, quality, or versus how you're going to monetize that isn't going to be popular with everyone. That I don't necessarily mean that as greed. I was just kind of trying to shorten that.
No, no, and I definitely got where you were going with it. And I agreed with you to some level.
But actually, to that though, it's actually ironic with some companies, right, where they choose greed over their employees, right? Like some companies will just, owners will take all the money and start laying off their workers because they can't sacrifice their own salary, right? And that causes the company to go bankrupt or under, right?
Right.
So it's like your greed just destroyed your own company.
Yeah, and well, I think it's also like it's kind of like playing the horses, right? So I mean, you start out from nothing. Some companies, I think restaurants are probably the easiest one to see in the States, to where you find like a really great hole in the wall restaurant that you absolutely love going to, and then they commercialize, and you're like, not even the same food. Like the quality goes through the floor, and you're sitting there going like, man, I really miss the old the old one.
I mean, okay, the only one that
Actually,
is like an exception to that I'd say is like Culver's. Like, if you ever had Culver's, it's like mostly the same place.
no, but I gotta tell you, it's actually hard because so my family work in the restaurant industry, and that's
Okay.
exactly that. One of the things that made it make us successful, but the hardest thing we have to do is how do we scale up without
Right.
losing quality?
Absolutely.
And we had to make a decision, like, we're not franchising, we're finding partners who actually care and
Right.
things like that. Like, but for that you have to be like, okay, I'm willing to make less money right now
Yeah.
to do that.
Absolutely, and just to be clear, I was absolutely not saying anything negative about the food industry at all. I was just more using that as
It's
an
just
example,
it's difficult.
because it's the same thing with companies. As you scale up, you start out. So I worked in the development industry for software and game industry, and I've worked at a couple of different companies where you start out with several like-minded people that are passionate about the system that they want to deliver to everybody, and that's great until all of a sudden you're losing profits because you're no longer cutting any corners whatsoever to make sure that the same quality gets done every single time. And that's great, you can absolutely do it. It's just you have so many companies that don't make it because they refuse to cut any corners, and again, more power to them. I think that's honorable, and that is the way to do it. Is you never sacrifice quality just to put ads everywhere for things you don't believe in. But at the same time, if I think you can do a lot of good if you can find the balance, because ultimately, if you can continue to get paid for what you love and also support, doing it right and doing it how you'd like to see, with the level of quality that you would like to see your customers get, then I think that's the thing to always strive for, obviously. But it's just when you're reading the books and actually accounting for how you're going to pay your developers and stuff like that, it's not always feasible.
So, I have a question for you, right? And this is just a purely hypothetical thing, right?
Yeah.
So, let's say have you guys heard of Danny?
Nah.
No, okay. So let's say you had a game, right? And it's really low quality looking, and this is what you're promising your consumers, right? But the good thing about a lower quality game is that like you can pull it out faster. So what you do is like you start off with a lower quality game, right?
Mhm.
Like let's say the gameplay is good, right? But you have the character models and stuff. They're like pixel like or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You start this game off and you charge $5 for it when you finish the base game, right? And what you do is that you bump up the quality of the game and updates without telling anybody. What would you think of this method?
But I think probably the first one that comes to mind is 7 Days to Die. That's exactly what they're doing. And if you play the first game, or you play it back when I played it, it's Minecraft with zombies. and if you play it now, it's HD Minecraft with zombies. It's kind of the game mechanics really haven't changed, but the visuals have drastically changed. I think
Take a look into it again.
I think it comes down to your aesthetic. As a designer, your aesthetic is what drives, all of that. So if what's that game? I have it on here. I have quite a long list of games though, so I don't know if I'll put it this way. I am very picky with my games, especially now that I've gotten older. But I will admit I have purchased and supported many, many companies for many, many years and not actually played any of their games. But I'm trying to remember. I thought it started with an S. It's the new one that is Pixels, that is a dungeon crawler, that is 100% physics driven. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Wait, what was the game called again?
Well, that's the thing is I'm trying to remember what the game is called.
Actually, save
But
7 Days to Die to my list.
It's a roguelike that is a dungeon crawler. I'll think of it. But essentially what they did was they started out as a it's not tear down. They started out as a college group that they were doing physics, pixel based physics for fluid systems and physics dynamics. And from that, they decided to make a dungeon crawler with physics. You have fluids and different combustibles and fire that actually crawls and grows, and you can take on all different forms, and it's a very fun game. It's very interesting. But with that type of system, there's a beauty to the pixels that if they changed it to like the graphics of, say, like Terraria, it probably wouldn't do as well because of how the physics, the back end code is behaving. And I think that's with aesthetics. I think if you're clever and smart about how you're doing your aesthetics, I think you can create a new aesthetic that people actually really enjoy. So I mean, I think it kind of comes down to your player base. If everybody's saying like these graphics are absolute garbage, but we love what you've done with the game, probably similar to what 7 Days to Die has run through, where people probably didn't care for the graphics, but they love the mechanics of the game, then, start improving your graphics as more people support you,
I'm saying if you promise this from the get-go, like this is, you showed them this is what your graphics are gonna look like, but we're gonna make up for it with good gameplay.
I probably wouldn't do that. Me personally, like it's just I think that's the reason that you have, or you're supposed to have, certain people that in your company that help keep things realistic. Because you can go and show CryEngine 4 or 5 graphics, the latest Unreal 5, and that's the latest thing, that so many, I feel bad for so many kids coming out of college that they're excited by this concept of, highest end graphics that they take on.
Graphics equal good game. It's not realistic.
They take on the Unreal Engine 5 as their first engine, because of the graphics, and you can spend your entire budget and then some trying to balance and perfect graphics. I mean, it's that's a whole beast, and so I think it comes down to your team. If you have the team and the time to support it, then try to get in good graphics. But if you don't have a team, the only reason I'm not out there making games right now is that I don't have a team. That's the only reason. I would absolutely make games every day for the foreseeable future. I just don't have a team that I can rely on to do some of the heavy lifting that needs to happen to pull off a game where I don't lose all my hair and patience for the world.
Yeah, just son, if you ever do get that team, make sure to make us a good zombie parkour game.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to stay away from parkour systems, and I like zombie games, but the parkour is something that has to be done really well, as I'm sure you guys have read.
Yeah.
So it's something that's it has to be so fluid and done just right, because people feel it. People will feel it, even if they can't put their finger on exactly what it is. They feel it. Something's off.
Yep. Oh, especially if you then play multiplayer. I mean, as soon as you get into multiplayer in a parkour game, the fact that this game is parkour and multiplayer is actually, to me, what makes it impressive. Having played just a few co-op sessions with others, I would actually say I'm thoroughly surprised that it looks as good as it does when you're playing. They did an excellent job on the characters and their co-op sync. That you don't see that in a lot of games, which is
You don't see a lot of parkour games in general, and that's something I'm actually pretty sad about, right? Because, like, I believe there's a high demand for parkour games, right? But, like, it's not a lot of people who can pull it off well.
I think it comes down to I don't know if you guys played the latest Star Wars game, but what was it? Star Wars. Can't think of names today.
You got a lot of games.
I'm telling you, man. I try to support the developers as best I can. I think it's actually an Origin game, but what is it? The one with the kid from Shameless. And Fallen Order. I'm guessing you guys haven't played this game, which you should. It's excellent.
I watched it.
It's an excellent game. But it also has a lot of parkour. I mean, the research that they did into motion capture for that game alone earns them every cent in my book. I actually really like this one. I think when I redo the Colonel's Men, I think this one will be coming out quite a bit. I'll actually switch him over to military.
I cannot wait till we can eventually join the Renegades.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
For my dickish playthrough. I'll have my good guy playthrough, my bad guy playthrough, and my asshole playthrough.
I mean, the a-hole playthrough would be like a mercenary.
I'll screw over, like, oh, you offered me an extra $1? Yep, screw them.
Bruh.
Let's see.
I don't think Aiden's character is built for renegades or mercenaries, though. He's built to be like the good guy type, from what I can tell.
Well, it depends how you see it, right? Like, I see it so long as, well, his quote-unquote sister, like, I feel like if the Colonel could offer him decent insight, well, back in the story, of course, not towards the end, but I'd say he might screw over some people. Seems to be pretty laser focused on that until Lawan kind of drags you into a bunch of nonsense.
I can't.
Oh my god. Listen, I broke my shoes trying to run after you into this building full of volatiles. It's your fault, like, bro. I was actually like, dude, listen, I ain't tell you to run up here.
Not only that, like, I just did something that no one else has been able to do. Now you want to go shoe shopping? I want to drink. Give me some bubbly. That's what we need.
The even better thing is, like, how does she even do that, right? It's just...
Let's see, that is going to be the platinum. Sorry, I'm listening to you guys. I'm just also crawling through. I'm determined to... That's always the part about these... about the updates is that they take a long time to do correctly, in my opinion. Like, I could just release it to where there's some, like, random armors and they all have some clipping errors and, they look so-so, but I want to try to actually put them in the game so they're actually, like, meaningful.
Breaks the immersion a little bit when they're all bipped and buggy.
Yeah.
Well, I know I certainly appreciate the effort you put into the minutia.
I appreciate that because I think, I will say that I am always a little bit I'm always a little sad that so many mods on the Nexus are like a one line change. Like they've gone and added like a single line change and then it's like the number one mod, and like it was especially true of Dying Light, where where it was like, you know, it took a long time to actually make it up on those lists because there were so many ones like God mode and, you know, punch a zombie into the sky and, you know, all these different ones, and they're fun. I'm not saying that they're not fun at all. It's just like it was literally a single line change, and it's just like, man, there's just so many mods I could have made by now. Like I could have just made like, you know, hundreds of different mods that are just like a single line, like change that, change that, change that.
You're going about it wrong, Doc. You should have just done the crawling howlers as just one mod.
Exactly. Well,
not only that, but those single line changes also make it you unable to use any other damn mod because it changes something like the player variables.scr.
Right. Well, that's actually why I'm trying to keep the overhaul approach, because then I can write the system to where it goes around. Because if you take the time to actually work around other people's mods to where they can still use their mods, they can still use their stuff, but then I can also get in my stuff. So it just takes a lot more time to do it that way.
I bet.
So I don't think I tried the trousers here. So is there any, I know that I asked this before, I'm definitely planning on doing this for all of the, so the idea is that everybody that is a Patreon supporter and that also donated, I'm trying to, it's going to take time, but I'm trying to do custom armor sets for everybody that has donated. And so trying to get everybody's favorite armors and then trying to find enough. Again, I was really hoping I could inject textures or inject materials or something to where I could make it a little bit more interesting, but maybe I'll still find it. Maybe I'll still have my breakthrough, but if you guys have any mod or armor suggestions or anything like that, you know, please feel free to drop those so that I'm aware of like what you guys would like to see in the game, because right now I'm just trying to put essentially all the cool, interesting looking armors in the game, and we'll see how that goes.
What have we got in there so far?
What was that?
What have we got in there so far? I've missed a bunch of the stream. I don't know what we've done.
Yeah, no worries. Let me, I'll pull up the list. It's actually gotten pretty long at this point.
Exciting.
So I think we're at, so I just hit 80. So I think vanilla-wise, where's the vanilla stop? So vanilla stops at 36. So I've gotten in at least 44 different armor types so far.
Hey, yo, what the hell?
Yeah. So, and I'm still making them while we're sitting here talking, so that's only off a couple of people. So I'm really excited to try to, again, I think the biggest thing, if I could figure out how to make it to where I can switch the primary skeleton of the game to where you could then put armor on the new skeleton. I think that's a lot harder. I think the whole point is that that's very difficult to do. I have to do some testing with changing Aiden's model to other characters in general, and once I figure out if I can attach armor sets to different characters, then figure out if I can actually, because I would really like to establish, I can't do anything about the voice acting, but I really would like to do, to be able to say that if you want to play as a female, you can play as a female. If you want to change your ethnicity, you can change your ethnicity, your age, whatever, you know, actually build character creation into this game a little bit. I think I would love that to be the kind of the takeaway of this update, but we'll see. And then still watching the YouTube channel. Sorry, you guys are kind of overlapped by some of the. I'll move some of these panels around so I can see it. And then thanks, Anders. I appreciate it. And little super fast yo. I am still working on all the different Renegade armors. So right now we have lots of PK armor. So if you guys are still on there watching, I will go through the list here. So. Amplitude can also see all the new additions, but basically I'm spawning them into the stash system, so pretty much all these different things you see in the inventory, those are all custom armor sets. And so what was the one I just made? So I'm pretty sure we've got our legendary military chest piece, and I guess let me review which ones I don't have in my inventory, and I'll just kind of quickly go through some of these again to show what we have. But then what was the other one? The joggers. It was joggers, and they are the Dylan trousers, which are urban, which means they're the newspaper. But what color are they? I guess that doesn't matter. I'll just go to the joggers and I'll grab all three so you guys can see these anyway. I should have all the hazardous materials stuff on my character right now. But you guys, I think everybody has already seen most of those. And now that this used to work really well, redeeming ththese things, but now with this amount of armor, obviously this takes forever. So I'll just grab some of the more visually interesting ones here so that we can, so you guys can see kind of what I've been working on here. But just the update for everybody that's newly joined the channel, so that especially now that I got so many, because I think really Aftermins, you were the only one on the channel when I was kind of talking about the new armor system approach. So we'll see how many of you guys are upset or bothered by my new approach to the armor system. But essentially, by the time this is done, there should be about 100 new armor pieces that your character can wear throughout the game.
Good lord, dog.
And I'm trying to tie it into the storyline as well, so that it's also in the loot system and it's also in the story system. And the idea here is that when you start the game, you have very basic armor that resembles closer to the survivors, maybe not as trash canny, but you have kind of this more rough armor that you're using that will allow you to explore the outside world. It'll allow you to run around and fight a lot of the smaller groups and that kind of thing. But really I'm trying to shift the focus of the game over to where you kind of have to be intelligent about, like, okay, if there's a group of 15 bandits, you can't just run into 15 bandits at level 1 and take them all out kind of thing. Maybe you can if you're smart about calling in zombies and using Molotovs and stuff like that. But you have to think about it and ambush them kind of thing. But
I don't know how available Molotovs are at level 1, but yeah.
Sure. Well, the loot update's coming. Because, I mean, it's a bottle and some gasoline. So, but for the approach for the armor system is basically you start out with more generic, well, actually, this will actually be less generic, more interesting looking trashy armor. As you can see, I have quite a few armor sets. I can't believe I'm only on torsos and pants so far. But you have more trashy kind of armor sets that allow you to take on those groups, but you're really trying to find the better armor. So going into like waiting till night and then going into houses, going into dark zones, going into these places that have not been as easily looted is kind of the approach. So you have lots of areas that are easier to reach that obviously people should have probably gone through those by now. But then you have ones that are like deeper and darker in dungeons and that kind of thing where there's lots of undead and they're more risky. And so you have this idea that maybe people haven't gotten in there yet to get the different armor. And so as you're going into the harder places, you're finding things like hazmat suits and you're finding, armor sets that make you be able to take on different groups. And then you're also able to go deeper into dungeons because of the stuff that you're wearing. And then that kind of balances out with this idea of armor sets. So you're looking for a set of armor because if you get the full set, then you get perks and bonuses because you have the full set of armor. And so that's kind of the approach right now, is saying like, okay, how can we get you guys all these different armors in the actual base game that make the game itself to where you're now using your money, you're now using different systems so that you can unlock or get these different armor sets so that you can go further into the game or into different quests and that kind of thing. And that's going to be a lot of balancing. So that's kind of the higher reaching goal. But that will take some serious time and balance and that kind of thing to actually pull off. So we'll see how well that goes. But yeah, as you can see, these are quite a few different pieces of armor here. And for everybody joining, matter of fact, I don't think I can yeah, that's the thing, is I don't think I can actually put all of these in my inventory anymore. I've run out of space for all these different things. So I'll have to come back to some of them. But essentially the idea here is that we now have lots and lots and lots of different types of PK armor, especially. So I'm not able to get to the... oh, these are gloves. Sorry, I was kind of waiting for a big shift there, and all of these are PK gloves, so none of them's really changing. But I was trying to move it. I was trying to get access to the naming systems in the game, and it looks like they've pre-baked a lot of those naming systems out, and so I'm still up against how to go through and name these things. So until I figure that out, they are a visual of different icons to kind of represent the armor set that they follow, and then you could have things like color to kind of represent which one they match. So there's one that's still in progress, so ignore him. And some of these are duplicates in the system where I've been doing testing. But the idea here is that you have lots of different ones that are kind of based on thickness and quality of armor, to where you have like the thinner sets, and then you have the actual thicker sets, which give you more armor, obviously. I have a lot of balancing to do to go through and say, okay, this is like a thinner piece of armor, and so maybe this allows you to move faster or move more quiet, but it also gives you perks. Like for example, this one has like a pouch on it, so can I tie into like this one gives you more inventory, etc., etc. And so I'm trying to really...
Go ahead.
No. You're gonna ask?
Wouldn't it be better to lower the inventory size and then have the if the pouches higher, increase the amount of inventory space to compensate?
Absolutely.
If you were gonna do something like that.
Absolutely. So
like
that
it doesn't make sense that Aiden should be able to carry like 24 swords on his time.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think that's a big part of it, is that there's a lot of things from Dying Light 1 that I still haven't really done yet for Dying Light 2, which a lot of that had to do with inventory manipulation and that kind of thing. But the game hasn't just really been, with the updates and everything that have been coming out, I didn't really jump into those just yet because I haven't been into the loot system. So now it's looking at, okay, so how can we take the loot system that's in the game and start to create a system that allows you to say like, okay, I have more inventory because I'm actually carrying a backpack. I have less inventory because I'm carrying, plating. So if I'm going out as a tank, then obviously I have less room to carry things back because I have tons of weight on me. Those kind of things are all things that I think could absolutely be added to the game for sure.
That'll really add to the whole, you don't go out without a purpose. Like, you're not just wandering about. You have a mission. It's like, I'm going here to take on this guy. This is how I'm dressing for that. Or I'm going here to loot this place. This is how I'm dressing for that.
Exactly.
That'll really change the gameplay dynamic in a very fun way.
So that really gives you that, actually trying to survive the apocalypse instead of becoming some fucking Avenger in the middle of an abandoned city.
I mean, they've already made it pretty clear that Aiden's basically like a super soldier or something with that volatile stuff, so...
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind that so much. Sorry, go ahead.
They did that, they didn't do that... Obviously, they did do that pretty much with Crane in the first game. But at least with the first game, it was a little bit more like... You're still trying to survive.
It was also different with Crane because we had the pretense that he's had professional training, so maybe he learned how to do these things in a more efficient manner. From all we know about Aiden is that he's just some random dude that got shot up and got lit up in a hospital.
To be fair, pilgrims aren't random dudes. Pilgrims are
Just
the
the
very
runners.
few that can survive by learning on the spot,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Traveling very long distances.
Technically, Aiden is just some random dude, but also you don't survive a fucking 2,000-mile hike without knowing how to get around.
And
Yeah.
I
And I don't mind the-
noticing too. Oh, go ahead.
Nice shoulders.
Yeah, I don't mind the volatile stuff so much if it were played better. Like, I don't know, it feels like they did it in a little bit of a cheesy way and only in the story type stuff. But I really wouldn't mind it so much because, inhibitors, they put it into the lore how the night runners use inhibitors to get a little more stamina, get a little, be able to jump a little higher, things like that. I don't mind that. I just think it'll be a lot more interesting once the gameplay gets more dynamic with IALR. I think that will actually make it come off better because it just feels cheesy. Like that's their reason for it being easy and a cakewalk, and that's not how it would be. Even if you're stronger, even if you can jump higher, even if you can do all these things, the world is still brutal, and it should feel that way.
The world is
And,
still ending.
is it just me, or like, does it not make any sense how Aiden got infected, right? There he's like, okay, I've traveled thousands of kilometers and never gotten bitten before, but he wants to make the dumbest decision possible and go into some super dark place where he knows volatiles are and just casually strolls up in there like there's nothing to happen.
Okay, I don't think Aiden knew that there was going to be a volatile there, and
It should have been obvious by the amount of bodies there was before the encounter.
Oh yeah, no. Throughout that whole mission, I was just like, okay, can I turn back? Can I jump out the window? Can I no, I'm not going in there. Not happening.
I suppose the thing is is that I can sort of see. Yeah, obviously you travel 2,000 miles. You'd think you'd be pretty fucking adept at not getting bitten.
Well,
But
can
when
I
you get
can I throw in the fact that he's like one of the few survivors on the planet?
Yeah, but the problem is, we've all experienced it in the game by now. If you get locked close quarters with a volatile in a tiny room, your chances of getting out of there, at the very least, not missing a limb maybe, is quite low.
Sure. Really quick, let me answer a question that's on the YouTube channel. So, little super fast Joe asked how I'd be able to get the better armors. So this is currently the update 1.1 for I Am Legion Reborn. I'll be releasing that, and if you join the Discord or you watch the Nexus, I'll ping everybody on the Discord when I release that, and then you should also see an updated for the actual mod with a new picture and all that good stuff on the Nexus when that releases. But I am trying to get it to a point where I'm happy to release it as a 1.1 update that it has most of the content that I'm trying to establish. I try not to do new systems as alphas or betas or charlies to that. It's mainly just fixes and that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to round out 1.1 before releasing. So we'll see how that goes. All right, sorry guys.
But that is another surprising part, right? Like, you think Aiden would have got out with more than just a bite mark, right?
He got lucky.
He did have someone waiting for him, and well, you don't go anywhere without UV light in a Dying Light universe.
Why didn't he?
Don't forget his best armor set yet, which is plot armor.
Bro was at like 50 settlements. Well, maybe not 50, but still quite a few. He should at least have a UV bar, a UV light, and he should have King's Fury.
Right?
Yeah, he should have.
He went in. If he went in and instead of getting bitten, he was prepared and had like a UV light, and then he lost it, so he'd have to get another one later. That would have made sense too. Instead of him getting bitten and them having this arbitrary plot device.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that as a pilgrim, he would have a grappling hook, probably not the glider, but he'd have a grappling hook and a UV bar or UV light at all times. I wouldn't leave the house in the morning without those things.
The grappling hook, I doubt, but the UV light, that's his own fault for not bringing it.
And
Yeah.
at least
It's the reason they got
better
bit.
armor as well. Like, you guys gotta realize this dude over here, arms exposed, legs exposed. Like, bro, you're begging to get bit.
Might as well go naked.
Well, that's actually one of the big things that I've been trying to.
Might as well just jump at the volatile.
That's one of the things I've been
Yeah.
trying to fix in here is because I've actually been really surprised since the first game that like they're saying it's such a dangerous world and there's all these things, but then you have guys walking around with like their arms exposed and like their necks exposed and like they're just like it's the most dangerous world you could ever walk into, and yeah, by the way, I'm gonna wear my swim trunks out.
Bro is going out with the stick as a weapon at
If
night.
I'm,
Or
if
yeah,
I'm
or-
going out,
Another set.
if I'm going out in a world like that, I'm putting like 7 layers on. I don't care about the risk of overheating.
Oh yeah, 7 layers and one of them. I would probably have light bulbs, like UV light bulbs, attached to my body in places that I could just like slap my knee and turn them all on.
I think
Yeah.
that's a
I
great
go
idea.
through an operation where I turn my arms into UV bars, bro.
That would actually have been an interesting gameplay thing too. Like, you can make like a UV suit and you can activate it if you're really about to die.
It's sort of like the UV cage thing you could put on the buggy in the following.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna bring back the buggy in the DLC.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all in the files, at least from what I've seen. You can see that.
Yeah, it's
You
coming.
can see all the files for guns, for the buggy, for different vehicles.
Said no guns this time.
No guns, AK-47.
I was enjoying the lack of guns for a bit.
I mean, listen, you cannot tell me after 15 years there's no guns. I mean, I understand this is a different country and that they don't have as many guns to begin with. Like, you listen to some of the side quests, right? There was a side quest that explained that they seized the guns, right? Because they of a shooting or whatever, right? So the
would have
guns
to be
should,
stashed somewhere.
yeah, and they'd had to be stashed well. Like, there should still be some functioning firearms. At least have
Well,
like
things
some
like-
guards. Go ahead.
Their whole reason was that the ammo ran out. But I'm just like, it's not that hard to make ammo.
No, there
That's
Like,
what
you
I
can
was
make
thinking.
a boomstick too, right? You can make a boomstick out of scrap. Like, something has to propel those
Yeah.
projectiles.
Yeah, what the fuck are those projectiles?
I'm
Are those
assuming it's
scraps?
trashed.
Bro, shooting scraps and volatiles and it's working.
I mean, when you're shooting scraps at like 2,000 feet per second, yeah, it's gonna do something.
But I just think like I don't think guns would detract. I just think guns are like the last resort because the second you shoot one, have freaking fun, chase level 4, goodbye.
And
Yeah,
that's
what it
how I
should be, though.
that's how I tried to set up Dying Light 1 is where you had the opportunity for ammo, you had the opportunity for guns early on in the game. The challenge was you didn't want to fire your gun unless you were ready to then run. So firing your weapons, but it made it a lot of fun for co-op because if everybody loaded out with guns, then they had to fight off the wave that was incoming, but then after they cleared it, they were safer.
Like, that gun ain't coming out until I see a volatile about to jump me.
Even then, I'd probably be a little bit reluctant to fire because you kill one volatile with a gun, good for you. Here comes 7 more because they heard the blast.
Bro,
Yeah,
I'm
but
throwing
speaking
down.
of, they're not right in front of you.
Speaking
I feel
of, that
like
reminds me, Doc. The whole GRE anomaly zone thing.
Mhm.
An easy way for you to reproduce that would be to use your boomstick on the GRE anomaly. Outside volatiles will jump in.
So
The GRE anomaly probably
Yeah, they-
should be able to summon volatiles when he's really low on health, like a last resort thing.
I actually just
Yeah,
had to
you know.
remove that because someone I forget who asked me that, but
That was me.
oh, okay. I was about to say
I was saying that. Well, the thing is, I don't think I actually ever got to the volatile that he spawned. I think it was
Yeah.
just outside volatiles. All of a sudden, I had 10 freaking volatiles in there, and
Yeah,
they
I
stayed
don't
in
think
there
so.
after I died. I could never complete them.
yeah.
If I remember correctly, they're not. The devs never actually considered volatiles getting into the GRE anomaly zones because they weren't actually ever meant to be outside at first.
Exactly. They're not. It's the same. When I was having a conversation earlier with someone about one of the new members, he was asking about the grab stuff and how could you make the grabs to where they look more realistic. It's like, well, the original game, the zombies aren't really supposed to move. They just kind of shamble around and then they grab you when they can grab you. But if you're on like any type of rising plane or slope or anything, it gets weird because the animation is meant to play at face level because they were only ever supposed to be at face level. And it's like, how do you go fix their game for it being on a slope? Like,
I wouldn't even say that they were meant to just be shambling around. If you play the base game, you go outside and see all the zombies, they just sort of stand there.
Yeah.
Even the volatiles just stand there.
Yeah. It frustrates me.
The grapple animations. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Grapple animations, right? Speaking of which, like, I think they did a pretty decent job, but like, there should have been more options to as how it should work, right? Like, if a zombie's running towards you, you shouldn't just be able to completely stop their momentum and throw them to the side, right? Like, it should only be an option to throw them backwards, and then if you throw them backwards, they land on the floor and you can stop them.
I think the thing with grapple is the grapple is meant to be using their momentum against them.
Yeah, but
they can't really full force, so you grab them, throw them behind you. They're already going full force in that direction anyway.
Yeah. What I was saying is like when you grapple and you throw them to the side, however, like if they're running towards you from the front and then you grapple and throw them to the side, that doesn't make any sense. You're stopping their momentum completely and then throwing them to the side.
So
I don't think you're humanly able to do that.
So everybody on the
something that should happen.
Everybody on the stream right now, this character is labeled as Rahim, and it's an abandoned character. So maybe this is what the early Rahim was supposed to look like. I'm really not sure, but his hat says "Catch Creation." It's interesting. They have a couple of little hidden characters in the game. But I'm assuming this guy was supposed to be...
These guys were probably meant to be in the original E3 gameplay trailer, which I'm pretty sure had a better story, I'm gonna be honest.
Oh my god,
before they got rid of Chris Evans.
Is that supposed to be...
I want to ask all of you here, would you guys have preferred the E3 story or the story we have now?
E3. It was made by Chris Avalo, dude.
I never actually familiarized myself with what the story was meant to be during the E3 phase.
Or the E3 concept, I guess.
The only part of the story I was ever familiar with in the E3 phase was the first mission was when they did the gameplay teaser where you get to see Frank and that.
Or you didn't see the E3 2018 one?
The E3 2018 one was... What one was that again?
Was it the water tower?
Yeah, with the water tower.
Yeah, I know the water tower. I fucking wish that you could actually... That was still a thing where, like, the faction prevalence was different depending on where the water tower came from. The way they set it up in E3 was really fucking cool. And I sort of wish it was still like that.
Well, I won't lie. From the moment that they announced the second game and kind of showed like the gameplay and stuff like that of like, the way they pitched it. So they had the first game, which was super intense, super creepy, dark streets, roaming virals, volatiles, all that good stuff. And then when they showed the second one, bright colors, post-apocalyptic but restored society, managing people's political problems, stuff like that. Even when I heard the first prompting, I'm sitting there going like, that is such a shift from the first game's playthrough of they're trying to hold on and find a cure to the second game where it's like you need to micromanage a bunch of babies who run the city and then stop their fights or whatever, and I was just kind of sitting there going like,
It's not our problem.
I'm just kind of sitting there going like, all right, yeah, okay, sure, and the end result of what we got now, it's like
completely abandoning the idea of the cure.
it's like an Assassin's Creed game with like a bunch of civilizations that can't get along, and so you're playing Assassin's Creed, but you're also trying to micromanage the game's civilizations at the same time, and you're sitting there like, yeah, I mean, you can do it. I mean, it just it's there. I just think that it's. We were talking about the idea of choice earlier, and I just I think the amount of development that would have to go into a game to do what they chipped off correctly is just quite a lot. It's just a lot.
Well, I would have liked the Megaton option, like, oh, you can micromanage and help all these people to make their science survival guide out in the wasteland, or you could just blow up the city. Either way works. Have fun.
If you're sick of them, light the torch.
They have to make it so those choices matter, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
It matters. You can take all the water out of the drained city and get a whole new type of zombie, man. Look at that choice.
Yeah.
Nobody ever goes back to live in that part of the city for some reason, but you have that choice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't go that route. I actually was really excited about the Dark Zones too, right? The ones that were shown in the E3 trailer, like they looked like they were gonna pose an actual threat.
I mean, if you think about it, anywhere that's not outside, like in broad daylight, is a dark zone. It's just
Yeah, but then you got the missions where you're in a dark abandoned train station and there's nothing there. And it's daytime outside.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get I'm still trying to do my playthrough, so I promise I haven't stopped my co-op sessions. I just found out about the custom content and switched over to trying to make this new update, and so I planned on resuming that here shortly, but I think one of the things that I've heard is it sounds like the metros need like a complete overhaul,
Yes.
and I can't wait to get to them because I'm going to try.
The metros are not incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, and I don't know how I can make them. The problem is that there's too much story tied to them to where it's like, those spawn points are not set up in a way to where like maybe I could make them full of volatiles, absolutely crawling with volatiles. But then if there's one storyline quest that requires you to get through there, and it spawns volatiles in there, then
Horror section.
I know that mission.
yeah.
Horror section, bro.
Because none of the other metros have any story attached to them. All the other metros are just... I guess you could just not touch that one.
So another thing is like, what do you think it's possible to add like a sleeping animation for the ones that never sleep, right? Like, cause volatiles, you never actually see them sleep. They're always roaming around or doing something.
They're always insanely alert.
I saw them sleep one time.
Oh wait, what was their? I've never seen their sleeping animation. What does it look like?
It's literally just a viral animation, but goofier.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball with the viral.
Yeah,
animation.
copy pasted.
Oh no, I've specifically been trying to stay away from a lot of the viral code because I think the virals are probably the goofiest thing in this game.
Without
real.
I've always
from
said.
the drowners.
I've always said. So in Dying Light 1, the easiest zombie, the bully, was the goon. But then they made the goon quite a bit more formidable in the second game, and now the virals are just a piss take. Because in the first game, they're not affected by UV light, so you do one thing, you say you fucking break one of the shitty wooden roofs in the slums, and you just hear all the screams coming and go, fuck's sake, here we go.
Yeah.
And now you do that in the second game, and you hear all the screams, and I'll go, fucking bring it on, you're all gonna die in like 30 seconds anyway.
Yes, I was actually confused about that too, right? Like, virals are supposed to be humans that recently turned into zombies, right? So, like, what do all these guys look like? They've been around for years.
Yeah, true. That's pretty true.
Yeah, literally. I was in the middle of fighting a goon and it blew up a tank, and I heard all the virals come over, and I started preparing myself for the worst for about 10 seconds, and then sat there and realised, wait, they're all just gonna burn. I don't know what I have to worry about.
This would
It actually reminds me.
some sense if they went for the viral thugs take. Like if you played what was it, Dying Light? What is it? God dang, what was the DLC called again? The DLC for Dying Light, right? Yeah, following, right? It would have made sense with viral thugs, and if you know what viral thugs are, they were the guys who hung out in the volatile nest. They're in the dark all the time, so that would probably make sense they'd be affected by UV light.
Wait, the viral what?
Viral thugs. Like they're virals that knock you down if you got hit. Now, did you ever go near a volatile nest and they were near it? Yeah, yeah. Even Doc doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
either.
sorry.
I can
No,
see
no,
a
no.
lot of people.
No.
You see this one.
I'm listening, but I'm also reading and stuff like that. So you have to.
I was talking about from a previous conversation we had. I was talking about the viral thugs that showed up in the game. You said you never heard of them either.
I've probably come across them. It's just I've never referred to them as viral thugs.
That was their official name. That's why I referred to them as that.
I don't think I've ever referred to anything as a viral thug.
I've seen
Viral is viral. I don't care what you say.
I've seen
I'm
the
going by their official name. I'm not saying that's how it works.
I've seen the pictures of them, but I stopped playing the following because that was around the time that they blocked my mod, and so I was sitting there going like, well, if I can't play the game how I want to play it, I'm not playing the vanilla, so I stopped.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
For some reason, that actually, I was thinking, I don't. How do you guys find this? Whether it's realistic or not? One of my favorite tactics. I actually like clearing out dark zones in the day by getting the zombies pissed off enough to run at me, and I get them to run out into the sun, and then they burn.
Yeah. That's how it's meant to be.
They did that in the mission 2, remember, where they all chased him out and burned to death, except the volatile.
Right. Yeah, that's actually with the audio update that I was doing towards the start of the mod. That was the whole point, is that you can technically go right outside the door and like swing your sword and bang on like the doorway kind of thing and wake them all up, and have them all come out into the light, and then that way you can kind of run around behind them. But I think the problem is they have some code in there that does the stupid cell activation crap. So you have to step inside the cell first, and then after you do that, then you can do that. But I was never able to find the code that is doing the cell activation, which sucks. Still mad.
I mean, if you wanted to be really realistic, though, you'd have pitfall traps all over settlements. Like most of these zombies are dumb, and the only people who wouldn't fall for it are like virals and, well, maybe virals and volatiles.
The virals would fall for it. The volatiles would not.
Well, they can all just jump
I'm really
over
excited.
the pit, right?
I really hope we get to a point where somebody else was talking about this, but the whole faction rewards thing, like, why don't survivors put up like freaking fence traps? We saw that in the first game in Haran. Like, it's not a difficult thing to set up. Like, they just set up
have crossbows.
Well, that I can buy in a way, because they are semi-automatic crossbows, but they would have figured it out. They would have killed a PK, looked at the crossbow, and been like, okay, we can make these now.
I'm talking about at least like a traditional crossbow.
True. Okay. Fair.
Not like a machined one.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's interesting.
If PKs can make automatic crossbows, they should know how to make at least ammo for guns.
Yeah, ammo's not that hard to make.
Explosives, though, and
you need some sort of something explosive to put into the bullet.
Well, the thing is that even if they weren't smart enough to figure it out right, like, there's still GRE scientists around. Like, you run into one, she was a plot device. We all know it, but like, still.
You eat one of them, but yeah.
Well, I will mention not to be a stickler for continuity of the system they've got. Um, if I think kind of the whole point is that if people started getting guns, the PK would probably move in pretty quickly to shut it down. Because they're none of the other rival gangs would ever allow the other to have weapons and they not, so they would probably just get wiped out. Immediately.
The PK would just take the weapons.
Just immediately they would come in and wipe out whoever had guns, kind of thing, and that would be the end of
That's
that.
why you do it in secret.
Right.
But the
Yeah,
PK had the
yeah.
floating fortress. They could literally just float out, make their guns, come back, and hey guys, you know how we were already the dominant military power here? But guess what? Now we have guns.
I would agree with you, but that ship is like half filled with water. That boat's not going anywhere. Well, it would go somewhere, but it wouldn't stay visible for very long.
And like
It would go on the
thing
Z
is,
axis.
Another thing I didn't understand about the story, right, either, is like you're literally the sole reason that the survivors are still around, right? Like, and they're over here, oh my god, Aiden must be a spy because he talked to that PK that one time. Like, bro, listen, I'm the only person that can save you from dying. They have literally everything better than you.
Yeah, that's true to be honest. If they went right, because you got to think, right, the entire the survivor story route makes a tiny little bit more sense with the windmill, because obviously you went and blew up the windmill, and in that event, literally the only fucking reason they have any sort of advantage is because you are the reason the PK no longer have a power source. And then
You would
without,
think they would have built multiple windmills too.
yeah, they got the big giant one.
Well, they have the big giant one. They have generators, right? But not enough to power their whole UV lamp system, I guess.
And that's another argument against guns too, right? Like, you have electricians, like, you don't have any explosive expert. Actually, you do have explosive experts, because, like, he had to make the bombs.
We have the boomstick. If we have enough explosives for boomsticks, we have enough explosives for bullets.
Yeah, very rough systems. But I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, but aren't the survivors? Which again, I'm assuming you guys are saying that the survivors should be the ones doing all of this, not the PK and not the renegades. But I think the survivors are pretty much outnumbered and outgunned. Like, they don't even have. They wear trash
We're not
bags.
saying. Oh, go on.
I'm just saying they wear trash bags, so it's like, in the start of the story, they find out they can electrify a goat. I mean, I'm not really, rooting for the guys that electrified a goat that they're making guns.
They wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I don't buy that they
we're
can
not-
survive without the PK.
No, we're not saying that. We're not saying that they should be able to do more. We're saying that the sole reason they're still alive is because of Aiden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, they
I don't see the
electrified.
survivors.
They electrified a
surviving
goat
without
as a
PK.
major,
Wait, they're-
step forward.
They're
so.
they're alive because of aid, bro. I screwed them over. They're all dead in my save.
Yeah.
Kind of depends if you want them to be alive because of Aiden.
I have a save where they're thriving. I have a save where the fucking bazaar is run over.
Let's see, leather. Guys, I've actually got quite a few armor sets now. Quite the list.
If I was,
Go ahead.
if I was the survivors, I would have at least. Well, I'd have more people, scientists specializing in each field. Like, you want to stand a chance against the PKs. Like, find out, like, send a spy to the PK unit. Find out what kind of technology they have and copy it. Like, you want to
Well,
stand
remember,
a chance.
they're anti-scientists, though. They lynched all the scientists.
Wait, they did? I never heard that part of the story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, they mentioned that they because they blame scientists for the virus, so they're like, let's kill all the scientists.
Well, to be
Oh
fair,
my
the scientists
God, no,
were to blame.
I mean, but then
Yeah, but they're
PCB
also
should
your
be-
only hope.
Yeah, try telling them that though.
I think, I think try telling any
Dying in a
post-apocalyptic
lot of
society.
pictures.
Try telling a bunch of, pissed off people that the entire reason that they're probably still going to be alive is because some fucking scientists made
Dude,
the
I
thing
did not.
what it is.
I did not like the radical decisions. You had to either choose fascism or you had to choose these guys over here with the anarchy, wet dream or whatever. Like, dude, listen, I ain't really getting a lot of choices here. I don't feel like neither.
Especially because there's no way the survivors survive without the PK or Aiden, right? Like, there's no way. They need the PK. They just need the PK to be a little more chill.
I wish there was an ending where you could unite both groups, but they had to make you choose one.
Call it the Kumbaya DLC.
Then there's the Renegades. The Renegades, we all know they're that generic raider group from Fallout. Oh my god, destroy everything, loot everything. Like, bro, listen, how do y'all expect to get
Well, Waltz's Renegades.
Yeah, Waltz's Renegades.
The actual Renegades are not that bad.
What were the actual
Yeah.
Renegades like then?
They're locked off in the stronghold because the Colonel wouldn't let them out.
Now,
Yeah, the ones that you're thinking of, they're the ones that Waltz basically drugged up, got them nice and addicted.
They're the mutinous ones.
Yeah, I'd be happy to live with the Colonel
The
stuff.
ones that sound like fucking rabid wolves. Waltz's bad boys.
god dang, how do those inhibitors work anyway, man? Like, Walt's over here sticking himself up with like 30 of the things.
Now, I have a question for you guys, because I was thinking about, after I finally learn enough about putting items into the game, maybe taking a shot at this. How do you guys feel? You know the Bub's Fury inhibitor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't buy that straight up, because it's one inhibitor. It's X amount of seconds, but if there were some kind of I don't know. I feel like there should be some way to trigger that volatile thing, without it just being a story thing. I don't know if it's via an inhibitor or a booster or something, but that's a part. That's a part of Aiden. Or maybe you get it in your last 10 seconds of your UV's running out or your resistance is running out, whatever.
Last
I
10
think that
seconds? What am I gonna be able to do in 10 seconds? The one jumping
Well,
on that
Bro,
door.
I'm trying to kill you right now.
Well, you are like 95% fucking volatile in that state. I'm assuming you'd be able to rush yourself somewhere pretty quick.
Unless you're too
Exactly.
deep.
Yeah, like let's call it 30 seconds, or it's something that you upgrade, right? Because that's one of the things I don't like about Bubs. That's the item. But if it's something that you upgrade, it starts at 5 seconds. It's useless. But it's extraordinarily expensive, so it's very much last case scenario. You use it, and that gives you a chance to either dash to some UV in your last few seconds, or kill off that last enemy, whatever. But I feel like there's something interesting to be done there.
How would you think about this for the? I think they underdid the immunity system, right? Though, you like your idea, but when your thing is at 0, right? You should be having hallucinations, like you're turning into a volatile. You just don't die. Like you just die when you lose all your health from it. The immunity running out. You should be turning into a zombie, not just dying and falling on the ground.
Not just having a seizure and then not existing.
Yeah, that's why I got into maybe it's something that's tied into as your immunity gets below a certain threshold. Like maybe that's how it comes into play, or maybe it's an extraordinarily expensive last resort item.
I'd say it
Yeah, that
works.
gives me an idea. But
I'd say it makes more sense if, what is it? When you get into the immunity critical phase, it's probably when you start going a little bit ballistic.
What were you gonna say after Mince?
It's like a legend skill tree in a way. It's like a skill that's binded to a key like L, and when you start off, you unlock it at like after the story or something, maybe near X13 story. You unlock it, and it starts off at like you can use it for 5 seconds, and what happens after it runs out, I haven't really thought about it. Maybe you like lose health, lose immunity or something. Like just a work, just, a side effect or something, and you can like get EXP to upgrade it by using it more and more.
I like the idea of tying it to your immunity bar better instead of having an activated ability because it makes more sense lore wise.
Can I interrupt really quick to just give a quick shout out to whoever the Techland developer was who went to Aeropostale or Abercrombie and Finch, found a pair of jeans and was like, this is the look that we need our main NPC protagonist to have. That was excellent. It's great armor. I love it.
Are you
Yes.
sarcastic or serious?
I'll let you guys discuss.
To be fair, I'm having a difficult
You
time.
can tell by his face. You can tell by his face.
No, I'm serious. That's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like shout out to the French French developer that thought tank top would be fucking OP. Yeah, shout out.
Well,
Best armor.
I'm really looking forward to it because some of the armors that I'm working on right now, those are just armor, like those are just the clothing meshes. I haven't actually added the armor to them yet, so I'm actually really excited to go in and take some of the ones because these are just the bottom layers. So once you have the bottom layer, then you can actually add lots of armor to that. And so even with the idea of like a tank top, adding like a military like tack vest to the top of the tank top, that'd be a little bit better.
What would be even better with your immunity system too, right? If he did lose, he started turning into a volatile, right? It would also make sense that he starts seeing his friends, like the guys you normally wouldn't kill as enemies. Like he's in a blind rage, and you can only see like you know how in your survival sense you can only see the outlines of people, right?
Yep.
Like maybe something like that. You're like your eyesight completely goes red, but you can only see the outlines of things, and you can accidentally end up killing an ally because they're all red.
Spectral arrow.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and maybe and if you spend too much time as that, then you're just full on zombie. That's when you die. So I like that. Like as your immunity, if that gets to zero or gets either gets close to zero or if it hits zero, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but you can hit zero and it takes a few seconds still after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like as you hit zero, you kind of trigger that mode, and you have like 30 seconds to get UV. Maybe the inhaler doesn't even work anymore. You need UV light. So that's like
that immunity booster's doing fuck all in that state.
Yeah, because
I'd
it's
like
supposed
that.
to be a booster, not a UV light.
yeah, that's both that's lore friendly. It uses the mechanic in a way that keeps it from being a story only mechanic. I'd like that.
And it's actually balanced.
Quick shout out to whoever decided that, turning fucking half zombie was better off only being part of the story.
Right. I mean, it's not even half zombie, it's volatile.
Volatile's fucking still a zombie.
Volatile is zombie. Zombie is zombie.
Yeah, zombie is zombie.
I like that. That's going to be my next
Aiden's
t-shirt.
probably like a super volatile in that state. He was over here one shot in this volatile.
I'm gonna make that as my next T-shirt, y'all. Zombie is zombie.
It's zombie t-shirt. Perfect.
Zombie is zombie.
Zombie is
Yeah,
zombie.
zombie is
It's
zombie.
good stuff.
I'm anxiously waiting for if anyone is ever able to figure out being able to add custom music to the game, because if that ever happens, I am going to fucking pop off.
Well, so they're OGG files. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. So they're OGG files, and because when I was doing the Dying Light 1 testing, I was sitting there like, oh, can I get the Dying Light 1 audio into the second game? And so I was looking at that, and I'm trying to remember where that was the thing, is I think the problem was I couldn't find the OOG files. There's references to them, but I don't think I figured out where they're hiding them yet in the actual game files. It wasn't in like the city pack or any of that. But I think you could easily get the audio files going in the second game if you thought that they were better. I don't know if they're better or not. But if you don't think they're better, then most of the audio is like, again, it's because of their encryption, it's only going to be their R packs. I promise you, as soon as I figure out how to get textures injected into the game, that will then equal all files injected into the game, I'm sure. So I'll keep you posted on if I can get textures injected into this game, because I'm going to have a lot of fun if I can actually get that going.
Right, let's set up a GoFundMe for a reverse engineer to bring aboard the team. Let's do this.
I'm picturing the idea of just making some like fucking like heavy sort of like chase music, fucking drum and bass level 4 chase music as like 14 volatile scalar building to come and get you.
Yeah.
Bro, if we could add custom music to the game, I'm adding Illuminati music as like chase level 1 to 3, and then Megalovania from Undertale as level 4.
Boy, you about to go to Boom Round, get out of here.
I fucking make music myself. If you can add custom music to this game, I know exactly what I'm fucking doing with my time.
I'll see if I can keep an eye out and figure out a way to do it. I think the problem is with all of these games, not to always be the Debbie Downer, but I think the only problem with this stuff is that they're okay with it until they're not okay with it. So it's like, you know...
You're about to get our player base away with those mods, and you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, so, just that little
People find more
notification...
enjoyment for the mods than the base game.
Well, just that little
That's the
notification
thing,
that now
too.
shows up.
People are enjoying the mods better than the game. I'm pretty sure that's showing a glaring flaw.
Well, again, I still think it's a good base game. Like, I still think the only reason these things are even possible is because they have all the things there. They just probably, again, it comes down to the funding and the time and the actual whoever the leadership is that allows them to go and do all these things that I don't have anybody to report to. So I can
I'm
go.
not saying that the base game is bad. I'm saying they need more mod support.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't want some stupid ass map maker dude. That's not enough.
Yeah.
You guys
Let
have
me
made
make custom stuff easier, dude. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, but then how are they gonna sell you the 27 reskinned weapons when other modders are actually adding in brand new weapons?
Here's an idea. Instead of trying to focus on selling skins, focus on selling DLCs that make the base game better.
I don't want to be a thief, man. I just want better game.
Yeah, but that's not gonna make them extra money.
You gotta sell to
Better.
them. Find out a way to convince them that they can make money off your thing, and you're good.
Listen, here's the thing though. If we tried to go up in their Discord server like, hey, listen, can you add mod support? They're gonna be like, listen, kid, you're getting banned.
Or the youth
Yeah, it's like-
theme.
This whole like please add multiple argument is happening whilst there's like an actual mod developer in the call. You're all just preaching to the choir, big time.
It's actually a lot of fun to just sit here and listen while I'm doing this. It's just like you guys are like sowing the seeds of dissension and like, you know, charging the lines and saying like, you know, mods, and I'm sitting there like, yeah.
Yeah,
If there's one thing that unites a people, it's bitching about something. You know, like that's what unites us together as.
It's the unanimous dissing of something that deserves it.
Yep, that's what we're a
love
strong
dissing.
community.
Well, I
I
mean,
love dissing.
this is like a broadcast mod update about the mod while you guys have fully flushed out the reason why mods should exist for the game. So, if anything, you guys are selling the content. So, thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
You said I'm preaching. I'm not. You were saying I was preaching to the choir, right? I'm saying like he tried to go up there and tell him like, "Hey, please add mod support," and they banned the dude. Like, so I'm saying what they're gonna do the same thing to us if we try and tell them.
Yeah. No, it's you just have to do it in a way that it doesn't mess with anything that'll threaten them. I think that, I mean, I really do think that that's just the easiest way to do this, is that as long as you like, there's nothing you're doing that would interfere with their updates.
Yo, the beard. Beard.
Yeah, I've actually found, again, if I can do the character creation side of it,
It
there's
looks
lots
just
of hair.
like you,
and,
Doc.
oh, thank you. I do like this armor set, though. I don't
Okay,
think I've
that's-
actually...
You just need a bandana and we wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
That's actually true. The beard looks literally almost the same.
And then I do like the fact, like, who went out of their way to just give him a different decal on his arm plate there? This guy must be major story content.
Yeah, not just like some 10-minute character that wouldn't matter.
I really like his shoes, though. I'm gonna steal
It's,
these.
it's probably
Those,
one of the.
those toes, though.
I'm stealing
Yeah,
his
I like
armor.
the fact that he has heavy armor too. Like, dude's built for combat. I would have put a helmet on him though.
Yeah, that's always
Bro,
my
I'm
favorite
literally
one.
gonna send him into my battles.
That headband's not saving him.
I will hire him as a bodyguard and then let him get murdered 5 times by volatiles.
Oh, that was actually an exciting update. Nothing for sure yet, but a couple of people have mentioned this concept of being able to have...
Hire people and then call them over to fight for you. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I think I actually might know how to do that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it would take a little bit of work.
This mod is just slowly turning into the actual RPG game I was willing to pay £15 for.
Giga Chad.
No. I think it's actually pretty simple. It would take some work. I think the hardest part of it is the key binding. Is creating like a key bind that would send all the way down to the behavior system. But if I could figure out how to bind it, then I think I know how to do it.
Would you be able to add it as like a story item, like a radio or something, and then you can only use it after, like it goes on cooldown for a bit, like you can only summon one person at a time, and it goes on cooldown for a certain amount of time.
Now,
like, give it a custom model.
Now that's not a bad idea. I think yeah, actually where are all my markers? Yeah, there.
You could even reuse dialogue of Aiden saying, "I need some help here" or some crap.
Because I think I could pull that one off a lot easier, but the idea behind going up to an NPC and pressing like E on them and having them turn into a follower, I had an idea for how to do that, but I didn't think about it the way you guys just phrased it. So
it's like an extra menu where you can choose your bodyguard.
I was
You
just
can
saying
choose-
that being
Yeah.
like a radio and you summon like a random person and you can only use it. It has a cooldown on after use.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
or
really
you
like
could-
that idea. Like
Yeah,
you,
or
you,
you
if
could,
you,
No, it like wouldn't be a random person, but you could like hire people, like buy bodyguards for pretty expensive amounts of money because let's be fair, it'd be pretty OP.
I'm
if
gonna
you
stay
could-
away.
Which is why I say a random person. Like you don't know
Yeah.
who's about to come and help you.
I'm gonna stay away
or
from
you could
buying
choose,
people.
like a personal favorite or something.
I'm gonna stay away from
personal
buying
favorite.
people, y'all.
You said what?
I said I'm gonna stay away from buying people.
Yeah.
yeah,
personal
I don't know
favorite.
so much about like that might come later, but I think I really like the effort fighters. I did, just made that could be an actually good story reward for from the PKs, for example, a radio that lets you hit them up for some backup,
Yeah.
or something like that. That'd be
Yeah.
super cool.
You'd think they would have done that.
Let's see, work. Well, they might
Well,
still.
not maybe buy people, but like hire, I guess.
I
Exactly.
don't know, it's the same concept though. And
Exactly.
It's the same concept, but worded better.
Yeah, I got what you meant. I was just publicly stating for the YouTube channel that I was not ever gonna go into a buying people phase of the mod.
Yeah, it's like
And
higher.
the buying people thing is like, listen, I say random for like multiple reasons, right? Like, first of all, if you could buy people, like, you're not about to buy some random soldier who is underexperienced or something. Like, you gotta think of this from an army perspective, right? Like, you just met Aiden, right? He helped you do something, you give him a radio, hey, we'll send one person for you if you call us. Like, you think they're about to send their best person to you? Like, no. Like, I bet on them sending, like, some random private or something, like, the first time until you build up, like, a relationship.
The most
Once
gonna
you're,
hire Hack
once
on.
they consider you a key asset, and they'll think if he dies, we lose out on something. That's when they start sending their elites out.
Yeah,
I'm
until
glad you
then.
have the card, though.
Until
Screw
then.
Hackon. Listen, if we could make a mod that just keeps Hackon from being in the game, I'd take it. Same thing with Lawan.
Well, no one I can get, but come on, bro. Hakon is a homie.
Hackon is a homie that betrays you on so many occasions.
And I still
And
love him. He's
It's
a-
not compelling.
I
You
have
know,
to-
Alright,
no one can go fucking, I don't know, die. I don't care. But Hakon, nah, bro.
After she made me get her shoes, I was just like, please let this be a sandbox and let me just kill her right now. I don't care how it affects the story. Let me
Let this
just.
be a delusion.
No.
Let this be a delusion. I want to dropkick her off right now.
Yeah, this is a viral hallucination I'm having right now. There's no way. I just cleared the VNC tower and she's over here asking me to get her shoes. No.
Bro, I must be turning into a volatile or something, bro. I am high on something. I know.
It's the sickness.
I just fought through
I know.
20. I just fought through 20 volatiles. What do you mean shoe shopping? Just go get them
It's like,
yourself.
get me a whiskey and a massage. What is this? No.
I just went through a bomber's nest, a volatile's nest, jumped up like.
Give me a portable bed.
I've cleared 50 floors of a radio station that's infested with some of the most dangerous beings alive, and you want me to go and get shoes for you?
Bro, give me your hit list. Give me all your belongings. I'm not gonna go shoe shopping for you.
Give me your hit list, I'll fucking write your name at the top of it.
Give me your hair.
Give me your shoes.
Nah, like,
Good lord, I think we've
It's
identified
your
something you
shoes,
guys are
bro.
passionate about.
If your shoes are like fucking broken, give them to me and I'll sell them for a good buck. Then maybe I can consider going shoe shopping.
Doc, you might have to add like an optional feature that just lets you kill the one over and over.
Yes.
I would
just
be similar to the zombies, the kid zombies. I would be a little bit worried about the media that might be involved with, like, people hated this character so much that a modder went out and made a way that you could just murder her in multiple different ways. It would be interesting to watch that.
I would like to throw her in a dark zone and close her in there. Maybe like 5 tyrant volatiles. You can go have fun. I'm gonna go get your shoes and sell them.
So what I'm hearing is that the one quest I need to replace is go get your shoes for Lohan. Lohan?
Luan.
The one.
Luan. Luan.
I'm
A bitch.
no one's happy with
Let
no
me
shoe
try.
shopping.
Do what?
At this point, bro, just like remove the whole quest and let me teleport to the fisheye canteen.
Yeah, that just it just angers so many people. But also kid zombies. We need kid zombies, man.
I'm working on it.
Kids
Bro,
get
they were.
Right,
I would rather
right.
not.
Right.
I would-
Okay. The
They're
thing
so
is,
creepy.
but you also have to consider the moralistic standpoint that comes with child zombies, especially in Dying Light scenario where these zombies are not risen corpses. They're still technically living creatures.
I mean, to be fair, I would like to think of Howlers as like grown-up baby zombies from the first
but,
But
game.
like, aren't,
in the
aren't
50
these
years.
moral dilemmas the exact type of thing you expect in a post-apocalyptic game, though? Like, the world has gone to crap. These are exactly the moral dilemmas that you should be facing in such a world.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I can't believe that like Techland had the balls to make children literal zombies in the game. Some
And not
companies are like scared of killing off the children.
not only did they add like child zombies, they made them the most irritating and like most killable and so tempting to just snap their necks out of the entire game. There is not a single zombie that I went out of my way. Literally, me and my mates would be going through missions, and we'd be running through Sector 0, and I'd hear crying from a building, and I stopped everything, got camouflage, and went to go and kill her. There is not a single
no.
zombie that I would have done that to.
They had the
It's so
odd.
creepy.
They had
I do the crying. Like if there can be a story mission that I can't do anything else in the game, but I have to go into a building that I know there's a baby zombie in there. I'm like, nope, not until I drink some whiskey and get back to the game. I need nope. That's so creepy. They're so freaking creepy, man.
They're annoying. Like, they had the audacity to put one final baby zombie at the end of the game on the final mission in the sewer where you have to escape the volatile.
The one
The
That's
one
every
child.
time there.
The one child in the middle of all the zombies. I literally got so good at the mission that the moment I fell down, I didn't even let the child scream and I beat the shit out of it.
I think the mission you're referring to allows you to completely skip the child.
No, you have to strangle children in Dying Light 1. Like, there's no way around it.
There
No,
it
I
is.
know. I know
You can
that.
shoot
I'm saying-
them.
Oh, I remember where it is.
Well, you can bash them or shoot them as well, but I don't think you need.
I love drop kicking. I drop kick the child.
Kick the baby. Don't kick the baby.
baby.
Kick the baby.
All right. On that note, I have to go get some lunch.
If any of you become parents in the future, I'm
Alright, leave the stream on. Let the stream hear us.
It was
Yeah, we'll just keep talking about kicking babies. You go have lunch. Have a good time.
you are going to get.
We are not gonna get your channel terminated.
I'm-
You guys
I'm-
are.
I'm
guys
getting
are
the I'm getting the signal from my PR rep over here in the corner. They're just like,
I'm like, if Doc leaves the stream running, you guys are going to endanger his future on the platform.
it's like I receive a
We
little
are going to
message.
endanger YouTube itself.
I get a little
He
message
goes
from
out for 30
YouTube.
minutes, comes back. There's a big warning, like your Google account has been banned.
They're
from
like,
using-
we didn't even think people would still dare to talk about child brutality on YouTube, but you guys You guys did it. Congratulations.
We're Giga Chads, bro.
They're all like, let's drop kick babies, and someone's like,
Well, let's be fair. Babies that are trying to murder us.
good
No,
clarification. Good
Well,
clarification.
No, not directly. They're physically incapable of killing you themselves.
They're trying to call all their friends to murder us. They know what they're doing, those babies. They know what they're doing. They deserve it.
I would love for a final mechanic to be added in Dying Light 1. Just grab the baby zombies by their mouth so they
I
can't
know.
scream, and then drag them wherever
There
you
it
want.
is. And that's cutting time for me.
That's
It's
it.
been great, guys. This has been fun. This is another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 2. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'll talk to you guys here soon.
100 armor sets.
Keep on playing.
Have a nice lunch, Doc.
Cheers, guys.
So you get 100 armor.
Well, then-